I'd like to call to order the November 19th, 2013 regular meeting of the Bowling Green Board of Commissioners. I'd invite you to stand if you wish. We have a guest with us tonight. Warren County Jailer Jackie Strode is going to be kind enough to provide our invocation and then lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you that we live in a country where we can gather as a community and decisions can be made. We ask that you would give our commissioners and our mayor wisdom and knowledge as they make these decisions. We're thankful, Lord, that you allow us to serve you, that you saved us when we were a 10-year-old boy, and we know that one day we'll come home to you. Lord, be with each person that's here. Bless each family. We especially ask a blessing on those men and women and their families that are serving in our country today so that we can continue to have the freedoms that we have. We ask all of this in your Son's name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Jackie, if you would remain at the podium, there's a special reason that we asked you to be here this evening, and this is something that we get to do as a Board of Commissioners, but if you'll allow me to read this, this is on your behalf. This is a proclamation from the Bowling Green Board of Commissioners, Jackie Strode Appreciation Day. Whereas Jackie Strode has overseen the inmate mowing program since its inception in 1999 as a partnership between Operation Pride, the City of Bowling Green, Warren County, with the regional jail providing the inmate labor and replacement of equipment and overtime. And whereas the goal of this program was to improve the appearance of the 7 main corridors into Bowling Green. And whereas under the supervision of Jackie Strode in the jail, inmates mowed an average of 865 miles of roadway and collected an average of 760 cubic yards of trash annually. And whereas the regional jail saved the taxpayers money by supporting this program and providing resources to complete the mowing and litter pickup for over the past 14 years. And whereas although this program ended on October 15, 2003 due to the reduction in available inmate labor, we commend Jackie Strode and the jail for their years of effort. Now, therefore, we, the Bowling Green Board of Commissioners, do hereby proclaim November 19, 2013 as Jackie Strode Appreciation Day in Bowling Green, Kentucky, and acknowledge the efforts of Jackie Strode and the regional jail for working to keep the entryways to Bowling Green clean and mowed for these past 14 years. Thank you, Jackie. If you stand there, I'll be right there.
I would like to say just a word, if I may. This is something that was very special to me. This program was, and we obviously hated to end it, but as you said, we've lost all of our labor and we can no longer do the program. And I do appreciate everything that all have done for it. I also want to comment, if you notice, I don't normally look this rough. I was talking to Commissioner Denning prior to coming in, and I told him I was growing this to work on some of the ugly spots that I had, and he said, looked at me kind of funny, and he said, I think you've missed a few. But all seriousness aside, we're doing a little contest at the jail, and so this actually cost me $50, but that $50 is going to go to the Salvation Army and Toys for Tots, so we're glad to do it. So thank you again for this award, and I appreciate it very much, and I appreciate each of you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Schaller, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hill?
Here.
Commissioner Waltrip?
Here.
Commissioner Williams?
Here.
Commissioner Denning?
Here.
Mayor Wilkerson?
Here. The first item on our agenda tonight is for a public hearing, and the purpose of this public hearing is to review and receive comments on the proposed substantial amendments to the annual action plans for years 2, 4, 5, 8, and 9 of the Community Development Block Grant Program. There's actually 2 public hearings, so we'll do this one first. Go ahead. Mr. Febo.
Just as a preamble, Brent's going to come forward and put into consideration our desire to build a new sidewalk on College View. In order to do that, we want to take old CDBG money, and that requires a reprogramming and public hearing. That's why Brent is making a presentation. Brent?
Thank you, Mr. DeFebo. As Mr. DeFebo stated, this is in accordance with our citizen participation plan. I'll keep my comments brief this evening because I know that there are some other matters to attend to. Turn the clicker on. What we're proposing is to amend the action plans for 2, 4, 5, 8, and 9. And I'll go through each of these individually so you can understand kind of where these funds came from. Years 2 and 4 are pretty much the same. Whenever we had the homeowner rehab program, we filed a second mortgage on the properties that received rehab assistance. Unfortunately, 2 of those homes were sold through foreclosure, and this is recaptured funds from that second mortgage. So that's what those represent. Year 5 is just underspending from other projects where they completed them. There was just a little bit left over. That's just kind of the combination of all those funds. Year 8 is a little bit of that, about $2,600, I think it's detailed in your memo, is from underspending from other projects. And the additional $22,000 was set aside whenever we developed the plan for public infrastructure, but we did not have a project at that time specified for those funds. So that's what we're doing tonight, is specifying what project we're going to use those funds for. Then also in year 9, this is a little bit of combination. We had allocated $22,000 for the micro enterprise program for Community Ventures Corporation. They did not use any of that funding, never drew any of that down. So we're going to take that $22,000 with some underspending from some previously completed projects, and also the Windover flood mitigation project. We had originally allocated $100,000. They changed the design. We're able to do that project for much less. So we're going to take a portion of that. All told, we're going to repurpose $71,000 from all these years. And this is an opportunity for me to kind of clean up some of those funds that are hanging out there to do this College View sidewalk project. If you remember a couple years ago, we did a summer stroll over there, and this was one of the things that had come up from that summer stroll. And I want to talk to you a little bit about the project, and then I think Melissa is going to talk about it briefly too. If you have any specific questions about the project, you can ask me, or I'll defer to Melissa if it's something that I can't answer. College View, what we're proposing is actually a sidewalk rehab project, but however you'll see in the pictures, the condition of the sidewalk it's more of a complete rebuild for the project. So what it will do is take off from the existing sidewalk along Old Morgantown Road that was completed with the Old Morgantown Road project, and take us all the way up to the, I think it's a Family Dollar now. I remember whenever it was just the Houchins there on Glen Lily. So it will run the entire length of College View. This is a picture looking from Old Morgantown Road, so you can see where the new sidewalk stops and kind of what you have as you look up College View. This is a little further up, and this is a section where there is no sidewalk. So it kind of runs in, runs out, runs on one side of the road. There is no continuous sidewalk path along College View until we get this project complete. And here's the final one. This is the current state of the sidewalk there. So even though it is technically a rehab, it is pretty much a complete new sidewalk being built in there. That's the project. We've completed environmental review. We're now prepared for acquisition so we can get our easements. And once that's done, we're ready to go to bid and start construction once everything comes back in. Total funds available, kind of give you an idea on the project and where CDBG fits in. We're looking at about $287,000. CDBG is going to contribute about $72,000. Liquid fuel tax, LFT, is going to contribute about $186,000. And then we're also using some repurposed West Side Initiative funds from 2009 that we've been holding on to that was made for West Side sidewalk improvements to kind of finish out the project. So that's the kind of overall of the project. Back to the public hearing part. If anyone does want to make any public comments, they can do so tonight, or I'll be accepting comments until December 9th. They can send those to me by mail or by email. So that is the end of my presentation. If anyone wants to make any public comments, the floor is open for that opportunity. Or if there's any questions of the commission.
Any questions from the commission? Does anyone from the public would like to make a comment? We're welcome to step up to the microphone. Seeing no one. Yes, ma'am. This is a...
I was listening to you, and I think it's a great idea.
Okay. Would you tell us your name and address, please?
Jennifer Moreland.
Yes.
Address 400 South Main Street.
Okay, now I have a note that you wanted to speak when it came time for the alcohol ordinance. This is only
Yeah,
for the
I was
sidewalk part.
listening to the conversation,
Okay,
and I think it's a great idea.
okay. Thank you. Thank you very much
Yeah,
for your comment.
I think a lot of people should speak up when they like something, so.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Is there anyone else? All right, hearing none, we'll close that public hearing and move right into the next one. And this is for the purpose of to review proposed use of municipal aid program liquid fuel tax funds and coal severance and processing tax and mineral severance tax funds. Mr. Febo.
Under our current budget and past budgets, we've used liquid fuel tax to purpose repaving and a variety of road-related items. Melissa is here to hold the public hearing and to present to you our work program using liquid fuel tax funds for next year. Melissa?
Thank you for allowing us to conduct this hearing. It's an annual hearing that we hold to basically address the proposed expenditures we have for the LFT, or rather municipal aid tax funds, and the coal mineral severance revenue sourced from the state. A little bit of background. Municipal aid, and we call that LFT, liquid fuel tax, is collected by the state. It's collected on every gallon of gas that is sold in the state. It is redistributed to the municipalities from the state, and the purpose of that is to use for maintaining our roadway network. Just real briefly, the projected fund activity and how we propose to use it. The anticipated LFT and interest revenue for this year is $1,283,500. We propose expenditures over 4 projects this year to total $1.2 million. Real briefly, those projects are our annual street resurfacing program. We've upped that to $900,000 this year. Our annual sidewalk rehabilitation program at $110,000, a traffic signal improvement project, and an intersection rehabilitation project. After those expenditures, the projected ending balance is $982,998. I'll go into each of these projects real briefly. Everybody's familiar with our overlay project, basically our paving project. This year we're proposing approximately 4.25 miles of streets to be paved. We are not projecting an increase in asphalt prices at this time, so we're holding those prices as they were last year. And we have provided you with a list of the streets for FY14. There are some streets that we intended to put on there, but after we held our coordination with some utility companies, streets such as College Street, Center Street, and 13th Avenue that are definitely in need, we pulled off because they will be, Atmos in particular, will be working on those streets in the upcoming year. So we hopefully they'll be complete next year and we can finish those projects upcoming. Additionally, Center Street, there's a lot going on Center Street, so we're trying to hold off to see that construction through before we spend our money there. Real briefly, I've also provided a FY13 supplemental list. There were several projects that we could not complete this year due to some utility projects, and they have completed that work, and we propose to pave those streets as soon as asphalt plants reopen in April. We've also added a few more additional streets that we did not present last year that are in need, and have those for your use there. We had some extra funds that some of the work wasn't extensive as we thought it would be, so we had some leftover funds from last year. The second project is our FY14 Sidewalk Reconstruction program. This is not to be confused with our new sidewalk program. This is at places where we have sidewalk there, kind of like College View. It is in disrepair. Maybe it doesn't meet ADA standards, ramps, slopes. It's breaking apart. The basically 1,845 feet we've identified this year. We have a total of $100,000, and the majority of these sections are in the downtown area. We have 2nd Avenue between Chestnut Street and College Street, Chestnut Street between 2nd Avenue and Short Avenue, 3rd Avenue between Chestnut Street and College Street, and finally a small portion of College Street between 3rd and 4th Avenues. We've also identified an additional $10,000 to be available to our operations division for just some minor spot improvements as they see fit. And there's some pictures of the areas. And as you can see, in a lot of these places, we have this problem where some of the on-street parking overlaps into the sidewalk. All that does is block sidewalk and cause it to fail. So we have some places we need to address those. Briefly, College View Drive sidewalk was our recommended project last year. We recommended doing as far as from Old Morgantown Road up to Auburn Way. With the funds that Brent has provided, we feel that we can complete this project all the way to Glen Lily Road. As he stated, we received the environmental release statement last Friday and are ready to move forward to property acquisition. So we hope to get that one rolling here soon and that project bid. Another project we propose to use LFT funding for is a traffic signal improvement project at Highland Way and Small House Road. We've used LFT funds in the past to address traffic signal issues. Most recently, we worked with BGMU and IT to get fiber optics to the signals outside the downtown area. That way we can control them remotely. We have that at Small House and Highland Way, but as you can see in this next picture, we have some old wooden poles that are in need of repair, replacement. We need to raise those signal heads, and the only way to do that is to replace the poles. So what we propose is to install the black steel strand poles that we've used some in the downtown area with the same look, and then replace heads and added detectors for some bicycle crossings that we've had some requests for by citizens. So we have a total budgeted $90,000 for that project. And finally, this year we have identified an intersection for rehabilitation, and everybody's familiar with 12th Avenue and State Street. The offset intersection, highly traveled. We have a lot of stop and go traffic and turning movement there, and the asphalt just hasn't held up. We're proposing to come back in with concrete. We would have some minor curb and gutter work there to improve maybe some accessibility issues, and then replace any traffic equipment as necessary. We have $100,000 budgeted for that project. And finally, the coal and mineral severance tax is basically another tax that the state collects from coal and mineral haulers. And Warren County has been identified as a qualifying county, so we do receive some funding from that. It's intended, as the LFT funds are, to go to transportation improvements. This year we project to receive $40,000. We have not identified any expenditures for this fund, leaving us with $100,473. With that said, we've talked, and I believe Katie can agree to this, as it is intended for roadway improvements. If we identify any safety improvements along roadways or sidewalks, such as maybe even de-icer for if we have a bad winter, if we need to purchase more, we can use those funds for such activities. So right now we have not identified a particular project, but it is there for our use. That said, are there any questions?
Are there any questions for Ms. Kanzler from the board? This is also a public hearing, and so we invite the public, if they have any comments or questions, to step forward to the microphone, just as they had before. Seeing no one step forward, we'll close that part of the public hearing and move on with our agenda. Are there any awards or recognitions other than what we've mentioned tonight? Anyone else? I do want to mention that the city's calendar is out.
Yes. Every year the city puts out its annual report. Today we made the report and calendar available to the public. It's a yearly compendium of the work that the city does for the citizens of this community. So we urge people to pick one up, and you can find them throughout the community. If you want one personally, we can arrange that if you call City Hall.
All right. Any city manager comments tonight?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to add a late file for Horizon, the JDIP incentive for Horizon. I think Kate can read that.
This will be municipal order number 2013-197 to be added to the end of the agenda.
Yes.
Do we have a motion?
Second.
Motion by Waltrip, second by Hill to add it to the agenda. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Hill?
Yes.
Waltrip?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Denning?
Yes.
Wilkerson?
Yes.
The second item is the need for an executive session. Ms. Schaller will read the reason.
Pursuant to KRS 62810B for deliberations on the future acquisition of or sale of real property by the city, but only when publicity would likely affect the value of the specific piece of property to be acquired for public use. And pursuant to KRS 61.810C for discussions of proposed or pending litigation against or on behalf of the city.
Second.
Motion by Waltrip, second by Williams. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Hill.
Yes.
Waltrip.
Yes.
Williams. Denning.
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes. Approval of the minutes from the regular meeting for November 5th, 2013.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Hill, second by Denning. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Hill.
Yes.
Waltrip.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Denning.
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes. The City of Bowling Green affords people an opportunity to comment even at public hearings, but also at every meeting. If there's an item that you would need to bring to the City Commission's attention, we offer that opportunity to you now, as long as it's not on our regular agenda. Does anyone like to make a comment to us? Hearing none, we'll continue on with the second reading of Ordinance BG 2013-36.
Ordinance relating to budget amendment. Ordinance approving amendment number 1 to the City of Bowling Green, Kentucky annual operating budget for fiscal year 2014.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Hill and second by Williams. Is there any discussion? Please call the roll.
Hill.
Yes.
Waltrip.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Denning.
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes. Municipal Order 2013-186.
Municipal order approving the probationary appointment of Larry W. Glass to the position of Parks Facility Maintainer in the Parks and Recreation Department.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Waltrip and second by Hill. Mr. DeFebo.
With the promotion of Dwayne Greenhouse to senior maintainer in the Parks Division, this created an opening in the Parks Facility Maintainer. Went out to public solicitation. We had 35 applicants. We interviewed 8, and from that discernment process, it's our recommendation that Mr. Glass be offered the position with your courtesy.
And Mr. Glass is here. Would you mind standing up so everybody knows who we're voting on tonight? Congratulations, but we'll get an opportunity to vote on you here. So do I have a motion? Do I have a motion yet?
Yep.
Okay, please call the roll.
Hill.
Yes.
Waltrip.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Denning.
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes, congratulations again. Next is Municipal Order 2013-187.
Municipal order approving the probationary appointment of T. Landry Spears to position of landscape gardener in the Parks and Recreation Department.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Hill and second by Waltrip. Mr. DeFebo.
Again, with the promotion of Chris Basham at the last meeting, this created an opening for landscape gardener. We went out to a public solicitation, had 34 applicants, and from that process, Mr. Spears was deemed to be the best applicant. I believe he is here.
Mr. Spears is here. Congratulations. Thank you. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Hill.
Yes.
Waltrip.
Yes.
Williams. Denning.
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes. First reading of Ordinance BG 2013-37.
Ordinance relating to classification pay schedule. Ordinance amending the classification pay schedule G for general classified employees of the City of Bowling Green for fiscal year 2014.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Hill and second by Waltrip. Mr. DeFebo.
This effectuates a planned reorganization of these two positions and creates a new position of park/golf maintenance superintendent. I briefed the commission on the intent of this, and this will take 2 readings. First will be the change in pay, and next meeting will be discussion of the personnel moves, if there's any questions.
Any comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Hill.
Yes.
Waltrip.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Denning.
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes. Municipal Order 2013-188.
Municipal order approving the appointment of David Lee to the University District Review Committee.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Hill and second by Williams. This is an appointment to the committee that oversees sororities, fraternities, and other entities in the University District. Dr. Lee, who lives in the district, will be replacing Sean Sinclair, who resigned due to business reasons, wasn't able to get to the meeting. So appreciate your consideration. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Hill.
Yes.
Waltrip.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Denning.
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes. Municipal Order 2013-189.
Municipal order approving the reappointments of David Saunders, Steve Speakman, and Jack Lancaster to the Contractors Licensing Board.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Waltrip, second by Hill. This is a reappointment of some long-serving members on the Contractors Licensing Board representing their particular trades. Any comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Hill.
Yes.
Waltrip.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Denning.
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes. The Municipal Order 2013-190, excuse me.
Municipal order authorizing and accepting negotiation after sealed bidding for bid number 2014-06 for the Wilkinson Trace Pond Relining Project from Fletcher Excavation, LLC of Smith Grove, Kentucky, in the amount not to exceed $75,000.
So moved.
Motion by Hill, second by Williams. Mr. DeFebo.
A number of months ago, the city experienced a sinkhole at hole number 7 at Crosswinds, which essentially drained the water out of the pond there and pierced the liner, requiring us to put a new liner in. This is more than just for a pond. We use that pond to hold water from the river and again to irrigate the golf course. So it's important that we replace the lining in that particular lake. We went out to bid. We had 4 bidders. All of them were over budget. We went out to competitive negotiations, and from that process we realized a savings of $6,000 and recommend tonight that Fletcher Excavation be awarded the contract. JB is here, or Mr. Lashley, if you have any questions.
Any comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Hill.
Yes.
Waltrip.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Denning.
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes. First reading of ordinance 2013-38.
Ordinance rezoning real estate. Ordinance rezoning a tract of land containing 3.54 acres from HB Highway Business to LI Light Industrial, located at 401 Emmett Avenue, presently owned by HGW Investments, LLC.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Waltrip, second by Williams. Mr. DeFebo.
Steve Hunter is here. Commission, if there's any questions and you would like to have him address the commission.
For this one and the next ordinance
Correct.
as well. Any comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Hill.
Yes.
Waltrip.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Denning.
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes. First reading of ordinance 2013-39.
Ordinance rezoning real estate. Ordinance rezoning a tract of land containing 1.69 acres from AG Agriculture to GB General Business, located at 324 Lovers Lane, presently owned by Corbin Irrevocable Trust, with W.B. Smith and Paul Smith Dermody as trustees.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Waltrip and second by Hill. Are there any comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Hill.
Yes.
Waltrip.
Yes.
Williams. Denning.
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes. Municipal Order 2013-191.
Municipal order approving Department of Defense 1033 program agreement between the Commonwealth of Kentucky and Bowling Green Police Department, and further approving the memorandum of agreement between the State of Kentucky and Bowling Green Police Department related to acquisition of excess Department of Defense property.
So moved.
Motion by Denning, second by Waltrip. Mr. Febo.
Chief Hawkins discovered that this program existed, and we're here tonight to ask you to allow us to participate. Essentially, the Department of Defense makes available to localities through the Kentucky State Police surplus military quasi-police equipment. So we need an agreement to do that. That'll be managed through KSP, and it allows us to access possibly equipment we could never get before at little or no cost. Doug's here if you want him to spout forth on it.
No helicopters.
Maybe a tank.
No tanks.
Maybe a tank. We have to maintain anything we get, so there'll be some dispatch about what we get.
Any comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Hill.
Yes.
Waltrip.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Denning.
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes. Municipal Order 2013-192.
Municipal order authorizing the City of Bowling Green to grant the transfer of 4 surplus transit buses from the Transit Authority of River City to Go BG Transit.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Hill, second by Williams. Mr. Febo.
We again have our handout. We want to thank our friends at TARC, which is Louisville Transit System. They have 4 surplus buses, large buses, that they no longer need. We're going to be able to get a grant, and BG Transit will, through our help, rehabilitate those buses and put them online for the ridership of Bowling Green. Cheryl Allen is here, and Jeff Lashley is here if you have any questions.
Are there any comments or questions? This is zero cost in acquisition, is that correct?
Yes.
Please call the roll.
Hill.
Yes.
Waltrip.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Denning.
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes. Municipal Order 2013-193.
Municipal order expressing the City of Bowling Green's determination to discontinue using a 250-acre tract of real estate in Butler County as a solid waste landfill disposal site, terminating the agreement among the City of Bowling Green, Butler County, and the City of Morgantown, dated November 13, 1977, related to the 250-acre tract of real estate, authorizing appropriate city staff to provide the necessary 60 days written notification to Butler County and the City of Morgantown, and providing Butler County and Morgantown with the first option to purchase the 250-acre tract of real estate for a period of 180 days at its current fair market value.
So moved.
Motion by Waltrip, second by Williams. That's 256 acres
Oh, what did I say?
on my list.
On mine, it says 256.
256. I don't know what I said.
Mr. Fibble.
Yes, since this involves a significant amount of legal nuance, I would ask that Gene Harmon, our city attorney, address the commission on this municipal order.
Thank you. If you recall, we were here a few weeks ago with a request by local business to sell a portion of this landfill to the local business, create jobs, and to help that industry here in town. Perhaps due to a maybe misunderstanding or miscommunication, we thought that some of the language in the 1977 agreement that gave Butler County and Morgantown first option to purchase and notification language, we thought that had been kind of taken care of prior to coming to us, and that and they would consent to that. Once we gave both those entities written notification, we heard back from the attorneys from Butler County and Morgantown both expressing concerns that we did not terminate, give them the official termination language and the official notification. So basically to try to go back in and redo that, the purpose of this municipal order is to formally express the city's intent to discontinue that agreement from 1977, authorizing us to go ahead and give both those entities a 60-day notice of termination of that agreement, which starts their 180-day option. And their 180-day option to them is to purchase the entire 256 acres at its then fair market, at its current fair market value. So this basically terminates that agreement, starts that option period going, and then authorizes us to go ahead and give them that official written notification. If you approve this, I'll try to get that out in the next couple of days.
Any comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Hill.
Yes.
Waltrip.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Denning.
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes. First reading of ordinance 2013-40.
Ordinance amending Code of Ordinances, Ordinance amending Chapter 2 Administration, Subchapter 218, Bowling Green Area Convention and Visitors Bureau, and Chapter 18, Occupational License Fees and Taxes, Subchapter 18.5, Transit Room Tax, of the City of Bowling Green Code of Ordinances as requested by the Bowling Green Area Convention and Visitors Bureau.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Hill and second by Denning. Mr. Fibble.
This is essentially a housekeeping item to update a number of our codes of ordinances. Katie's been intimately involved with this, so if you have any questions, I would ask that you address to Katie, who's been managing this on behalf of us.
Any comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Hill.
Yes.
Waltrip.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Denning.
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes. First reading of ordinance 2013-41.
Ordinance providing for issuance of water and sewer revenue bonds. Ordinance of the City of Bowling Green, Kentucky, authorizing and providing for the issuance of City of Bowling Green water and sewer refunding revenue bonds, Series 2013, for the purpose of refunding and refinancing the outstanding City of Bowling Green, Kentucky water and sewer revenue bonds, Series 2004, maturing on or after December 1st, 2016.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Waltrip, second by Williams. Mr. Fibble.
Our partners at BGMU are like us. They always try to find opportunities to reduce the cost of money. This is a request from BGMU to refinance. They need your permission. It comes at no peril to you if you agree to this. There's approximately $200,000 savings from this refinancing. Mark Iverson is here if you have any questions.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Iverson? Came all the way down the street just to see us. and to bring me this hat. Thank you so much. Other comments or questions?
What hat?
He didn't buy it. This didn't come from him. I'm sorry. Teresa brought that to me. Right. Please call the roll.
Hill.
Hold on. A BGM you had?
I told you I'd lose it. Did I not tell you that you didn't bring 5? We were in trouble.
I'm hurt. But that's all right. We'll remember the next bond.
Please call the roll.
Hill.
Yes.
Waltrip.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Denning.
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes. First reading of ordinance number BG 2013-42.
Ordinance amending Code of Ordinances, ordinance amending Chapter 4, Alcoholic Beverage Control of the City of Bowling Green Code of Ordinances to make amendments required by revisions to the Kentucky Revised Statutes.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Waltrip and second by Denning. I know that we'll have many people to speak up here today. When that time comes, I'll invite you to come to the microphone. If you would, provide your name and address so that we can have that for the record. So, Mr. Febo?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I know there's 3 sponsors by the commission. With their approval, would you like Gene to give an overview of why this is here and what it contains? Gene?
How detailed an overview do you want? But we'll start. I think as everybody knows, the General Assembly this past year came in and made, probably for the first time in a long time, significant changes in the state ABC law. There's 4 chapters in the Kentucky Revised Statutes dealing with ABC law. And they came in and made some fairly significant changes. The most significant basically dealt with the types of licenses that state issues and the type of licenses that local communities can issue. If I remember the numbers, I think they almost cut it in half. I'll make up numbers like 88 to 44, something like that. They greatly reduced the number of licenses out there that's available. And then mandated, of course, that all local communities amend their ordinances to reflect to sell the same type of issues, same type of licenses that they do. So we've got until December 11th to get that completed. Everybody should have had done in July since we renewed our licenses, but I think since this bill didn't go into effect till June, nobody had a chance to do that. Every city in the state that's now issuing ABC licenses is doing the same thing we're doing, at least on that part. I think everybody thought that since we're here making that change, and we're also trying to clean up and fix other statutes or ordinances as we go through, that this was the time to look at the ABC chapter as well. I think we talked about it at a work session a few weeks ago. This body also addressed it during your legislative retreat. And based upon those discussions and some input I received from you, we made some other changes in the ordinance as well. And probably, I guess I've got kind of a bullet point. One of the biggest from Section 4501, that's the new licenses. Those that actually list each license that the city is eligible to issue, and that's set by state law. State law doesn't set the actual fees we can charge, but sets maximum fees. And we've had maximum fees for a number of years, and we continue with those same fees in this chapter as well. But the state does set maximums, and we are at those. A couple other smaller changes. 4503. We previously and currently, I guess, have a restriction that to get a package license here in town, that package license holder must derive 90% of their income from the sale of alcohol. Upon request, that's been amended slightly to reduce that number down to 80% instead of 90%. I think the idea was that at least we had one package holder that I think in the work session mentioned that kind of prohibited them from being able to sell other things in their store other than alcohol, since they had to generate 90% from alcohol sales. So based upon that, that's been proposed tonight to be reduced to 80%. I did eliminate one subchapter 4.3 that dealt with the quota system. I just took that out because the state establishes the quota system, and I just think we needed language in our ordinance saying basically we'll comply with the state quota system. We don't have a whole lot of choice. They establish this, they set the numbers for how many we can have. Probably what's going to get the biggest discussion tonight, at least I think, is probably Section 4.6, where we came in and changed the hours of operation with the major changes coming on Sundays. Proposed, and again, this is just proposed for the first reading tonight, and make sure everybody understands we can do, if anybody, if you get the motion second, 3 votes, we can amend tonight from the floor if anybody cares to make any amendments tonight. If we go to second reading and we start making amendments, Then, depending on the nature of those amendments, we may have an amended first reading. So, if you want changes, probably tonight's the time to do it if you know what you want to do. But, for example, package stores, the new language now allows package stores to be open on Sundays from 1 until 9. I kind of looked at some of the other state cities, like Louisville and Lexington, if I'm not mistaken. That's about the hours that they have on package stores. I think they have them open on Sundays at 1. But again, you've got freedom to change those if you want. I think currently the package stores here in town, I think, are 8 to 11, Monday through Saturdays. Monday through Saturday, and then, of course, not all on Sunday. But right now it's proposed from 1 to 9 on Sundays. The licensees selling for consumption on the licensed premise, for example, restaurants, bars, and everything else, we're proposing times from 10 a.m. to 2 a.m. of the following day. If you know right now what we do, the only places that are allowed to sell on Sundays are restaurants begin at 1 o'clock, and restaurants have to seat 100 and have to derive at least 50% of their income to sell the food. All that language is proposed to be amended and deleted. This language will allow basically anybody who has a license to sell to apply for a special Sunday sale license to operate and sell on Sunday, which would include bars, restaurants, bowling alleys. Basically, if you've got a license for consumption on the premises, you can apply for a special Sunday license and start selling as early as 10 a.m. Again, all the seating, all the revenue language, and all that kind of stuff is gone. Bars can be open as well. Probably another significant change, right now you cannot buy packaged beer on Sunday in Bowling Green. This proposed ordinance would open up packaged beer sales from the same time on Sunday that they can Monday through Saturday, which is currently 6 a.m. Until 2 a.m. of the next day, which means the Krogers, the Walmarts, the convenience stores, if they sell packaged beer, then they can now sell packaged beer on Sunday. Let's see, what else? That's about it. A couple of things I just kind of went through and changed. I know we had some discussions about minors being on premises. If you remember, we said state language says minors shall not remain. Our language, they shall not enter. I kept the enter language for bars and for package stores, but we have language in our ordinance that said, well, if you're certain things like a restaurant or bowling alley or something like that, then minors can enter, but they can't go in the barroom area. I've got some concerns about the enforcement of that, especially with the, and not to bring this up to this discussion, but especially now with the smoking issue. I mean, you see people go to the quickest tables they can get. I mean, I see minors sitting at booths next to what I think is the barroom area all the time. So I just kind of thought maybe that may not be basically enforceable. Kept the language about bars, kept the language about package stores, but when you start talking about bowling alleys and restaurants, it's kind of tough to enforce keeping minors out of the barroom area of a restaurant. Also seemed to conflict. We have another language, another section we did keep in that says minors have to be, after 10 p.m. at night, cannot go into the barroom area of a restaurant after 10. To me, that other language seemed to conflict. We can't go in at all, but then later on it says, well, you can't go in after 10. But we kept the after 10 language. That's still in there. But what I did remove the others. We amended slightly keg registration. We had some concerns come up about enforceability of a portion of that, and we hope we've addressed that in this thing as well, too. Probably the last major change, and this came about the new statutory changes, too. Under the new law, to get a temporary license, if you're nonprofits, you can get it. But if you're a for-profit company applying for a temporary license to benefit a nonprofit, you have to get a written approval from that local government that is, in fact, a civic event. So we need to set out in ordinance how we would approve that application. This language now says it goes to the mayor for approval. If the mayor disapproves, then that entity has the ability to appeal that decision back to the full board. And I think that's probably a fairly quick summary of where we are.
Thank you, Mr. Harmon. What we'll do is we'll begin with discussion and end with discussion from the commission. I think Mr. Denning wanted to go first tonight.
Thank you, Mayor. I have got a couple of things that are in the ordinance that I want to bring to the attention again of the mayor and the city commission. As Mr. Harmon mentioned, one of the things that we did keep in was the 1,000 feet rule. and that is to prevent competition coming in between existing.
But we do have a current ordinance language that says for package stores that they cannot be within 1,000 feet of another package store, measured by the way an ordinary pedestrian would travel. At one time, there was some discussion about whether we wanted to keep that language. That language stayed in. So there is no change to that 1,000-foot rule at all.
Yeah. Okay.
Excuse me.
Yes, ma'am.
What item is that?
It was relocated.
Once you
Oh,
go
okay,
on-
so it's
To
marked,
fit.
okay, thank you, never mind.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, we moved it.
90% rule. Now, we only had one question from one company that was interested in changing that from 90 back to 80.
Well, Commissioner, the only thing I can tell you, at the work session, we had one. The discussions that you all have had with other citizens, I mean, I don't know about those discussions. At the work session, we did have one that did bring up that he'd like to have it reduced to 80. But I can't speak for discussions that you all had privately with some of the other people.
Okay. Another thing, another concern I have, and I'd like to see us on Sunday have the same times for everyone. And if it's going to be 1 to 9, let it be 1 to 9 for everyone.
Well, let me, and I know there's probably on the package stores. Right now, beer sales have an advantage Monday through Saturday, if you want to call it that, over package stores, because they get open at 6. Package stores right now go from, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's 8 to 11. Beer sales can go from 6 until 2 the next morning. So it's already a difference Monday through Saturday between beer sales and packaged liquor sales. But, you know, I guess go back further, but if, you know, I mean, you guys have the ability to set the hours that you want to set. You know, if you want to extend package sales on Sunday from 8 in the morning until 11 at night to match what they do Monday through Saturday, that's fine. You have the ability to do that.
But we also can move them from 1 to 9.
Yes, right now this is proposed from 1 to 9, but you have the ability to set it what you want. But currently, Monday through Saturday, beer sales and packaged liquor store sales hours are not the same.
Well, I know what else I was going to mention. It's always been the law in Kentucky for 97 years, I guess, or 100, that there's no liquor sold on Election Day. And we're all aware of why that came about, because in years past, the liquor was used to buy votes. I'm sure in some places in Kentucky that's probably still being done. I think we as a body certainly has expressed an interest in changing that to where liquor sales can be available on
Election Day.
On Election Day.
That was one of the changes that the General Assembly did this year. One of the changes they did pass basically now says that Election Day sales is an option for local communities. So you can allow liquor sales on Election Day if you want. If you don't want it, you can still prohibit it. Based upon the direction I was given, I think there's, at least I thought, consensus probably among here to go ahead and eliminate that prohibition. So we have taken that language out about no alcohol sales on Election Day. And it shows you sometimes, an example maybe how far it goes. Was it the first Tuesday of this month? Was Election Day in some places, because I got a call early that morning. Can liquor stores in Bowling Green be open? And I was thinking, well, why not? We're not electing anybody. And I went back and looked at our ordinance, and we helped a lot, because our ordinance said, well, on election days, you have to be closed during the hours in which the polls are closed or open. We didn't have any polls open, so the answer was yes, you could sell. But even that question came up the first Tuesday this month when we didn't even have elections, but some companies were, some of the businesses were wondering, can we open today or not? But under our new proposed language, election days will be just like every other day. They can open up their normal hours.
Okay. Let me go back to the times. Are we all in agreement with the way the times are now, or do we want them? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Bill.
If I may, it may make more sense to just have the package stores open at the same time that they are during the week. That way things stay the same. It's pretty consistent. That would be 8 to 11. That way that'd be every day. It seems like that might make more sense than if you have a liquor store that doesn't want to open until 1 o'clock or 12 o'clock. That's their choice.
I have no problem. You know, I think this is just an opportunity for the small businessman or woman to have the opportunity to expand their business and do the same thing that other businesses, such as the big businesses, the General Motors, the Hollies, the Fruit of the Loom, to be able to do their thing legally. You know, the selling of alcohol is legal. And none of us up here, and 3 of us have been policemen, I don't want no drunk driver out there on the street. If he's out there on the street, he should be caught, or she should be caught, and go to jail. We're not opening the doors for anyone to do anything any more than what they already do. We're providing an opportunity for the business person to be treated like a business person. We have this mentality that because a person sells liquor and is legal, let's keep that in mind, that person or that company, Coors out in St. Louis or whatever his name is, bad place. That's not the case. These people pay their taxes just like everybody else that is in the city of Bowling Green. And if they're doing things legal, as they are, then they should have the opportunity to do what the law provides to them. And this, in my opinion, is what this ordinance to here tonight is all about. Simple. Fairness. You know, no liquor on election day. Well, I've been here all my life, and that's the only thing I've ever heard. You can't get no liquor today. Not that anybody's going to get a rich off of me from liquor. Lord Ferguson back here has been my friend for over 50 years. The Lord hasn't gotten a nickel from me off of liquor. But he should have the opportunity to sell to people that want liquor. It's legal. It's available. And I just think that we as adults have to make the decision about liquor. I had mentioned to me today about baseball parks. You know, they sell beer there, and there's a little 6-year-old, 7-year-old sitting right next to the person that's drinking beer. So why is that any different than a person going to the liquor store, getting liquor, or to a restaurant, getting liquor, and taking it home, or having a drink there? Or that the little businessman that has a little small place that is trying to make a living for his family, selling pizzas, hamburgers, or whatever, if he or she wants to be able to sell a beer to their customer with that fatty hamburger, then they should be able to do so, as long as it's legal. I really, over the years, as ex-state trooper get a little confused about alcohol and how it's used. I don't think anyone is for the drunk driving down the street and can't see over the steering wheel and hits a tree. Well, that's his fault that he hit the tree. But everybody is not going to be driving down the street drunk and run across the road and hit a tree. Some people may have a glass of wine with their steak at Rafferty's, where we were a little early, but we didn't have no wine. I want to make that clear. All of us had water. But Rafferty sells liquor, and if we wanted one, and not being in the situation we're in here tonight, if we wanted to have had a glass of wine or whatever, we could get it because it's legal. They sell it. They got things up on the wall that says they can sell liquor. There's not going to be any difference on Sunday when people put things up on their wall, that license, they can sell it legally. And one of the things I've found out over the years is that communities will put up with bootleggers before they vote to legalize liquor. Now, if you don't think it's true, do a little research. I was sent all the way as a Kentucky State Trooper from Frankfort all the way to Harlan, me and another trooper, to try to make some whiskey buys because the bootleggers have been selling liquor for years and years and years. And, of course, we didn't do no good and we came back home. But I've never understood that. Bootleggers have a good business because they know the neighbors are not going to turn them in. They can go on and do their thing. But when people want to do something right and they come before a government body like ours and they go down here next door to get their license in order to do those things right, then they're wrong. They're bad folks. You know, I don't drink a lick, but hell, it doesn't bother me that somebody wants to have a drink. I guess I've said enough.
Anybody have yes, sir?
You want to go?
No, go ahead.
A couple of comments. The 80-90 issue, I believe that we're the only place in Kentucky that has that 90% rule. And to be candid, I know there was some talk about doing away totally with that 90% rule. However, I think the 80% rule was a compromise. Keep at least keep a semblance of what that 90% rule is supposed to do, to bring it down to 80, to allow some businesses to sell more in their stores. And somewhat in what Joe was saying, the reality that alcohol is already being sold in Bowling Green on Sundays, why would we allow one group to sell legal products on Sundays, that being restaurants, primarily restaurants, and not allow other businesses to sell the same legal product? So that was some of my thought process in this, is we already have the sales. We're just seem to be making it fair to our business community. And again, people can make their own choice. If they want to, if you still don't want to buy alcohol on Sunday, just keep buying yours on Saturday. That's fine. But that's a couple of points in my thought process in this.
Once again, to me, it's an item of fairness and to allow businesses to put their control of their business back in their hands. If we look around our city now, there are different organizations. I can think of a restaurant. I can think of places that sell vehicles. I can think of a hobby store that sells retail things. They're allowed to be open on Sunday, but they choose not to. And that's fine. Now we're giving our restaurants, the smaller ones, our other restaurants, the larger ones that have been able to sell alcohol all along, the opportunity to sell earlier, or the opportunity to sell. We're allowing liquor stores to sell liquor. We're not telling them they have to sell it. We're giving them that choice. If they believe it's profitable for them, they get to make that choice if they want to open and if they want to sell it. So I had to look at this from a strictly business sense and make it fair for everyone.
Yes, sir.
Just one thing I need to add to what I've already said, and I've run my mouth a little too much probably already. I'm the only one seated up here about 18 years ago, I guess, when we implemented you can have a drink of wine with your meal on Sunday afternoon, on Sunday. Keep in mind that the convention center on this side of the Scottsville Road going out and the red carpet all the way out on the other end were already serving wine and beer and on the weekends because of their special convention license that they had. But on this side, you had Rafferty's and other restaurants. They couldn't sell wine, couldn't sell anything that was in the category of liquor. Well, there were a good many in our community that thought the world was going to come to an end. It didn't happen. Fortunately, it didn't happen. And the sale of wine, I don't know, in those 17, 18 years has created any major problem in the city of Bowling Green. Accident-wise or fights or any of that, I haven't heard of in the last 20 years that I've been here. So I think everybody that has said something is right. This is an opportunity for the small businessman to do or to expand their business, and they're entitled to do so like anyone else.
Anyone else from the commission? All right, and invite members of the public, if they have a comment, to step to the microphone, and if you would, again, give us your name and address so that we can record that in our minutes.
Hello, Jennifer Moreland, Morlan. I'm a Christian, and I believe the law should lighten up because if you read it would reduce the sales tax, would increase the economic, it would help this community, it would establish jobs for one day, but at least it's establishing jobs. And it would help small businesses grow and prosper if you just take that Sunday law out. So, and I know what you're saying. You're saying that we shouldn't do it and stuff like that, but you might as well, because the other restaurants are making money and the bars are not making a lot of money at all on Sunday. So that's not really fair. So, and the mayor, hi, I would like to speak to you, make an appointment afterwards about an issue with Portland, Tennessee. I'm trying to get the mayors to work together on an issue.
Okay, just feel free to call our office. It's 393-3000, and I'll be happy to talk to you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Yes, sir. Name and address, please.
Good evening. My name is Bobby Morrow. I reside on Gale Way. Bowling Green is my hometown. I grew up here like Commissioner Denning. Been proud of this town. And as far back as I can remember, I don't know of a single bar that's had to close down because they could not make a living 6 days a week. Now, I don't know why this is being brought up. I don't know if monetary for whom. I cannot see revenue coming in to the city that would overflow our city coffers from Sunday sales. And I don't believe that these people who own these package stores are in such a state that they need the Sunday sales to exist. Now, I know one thing that was mentioned recently, and I read it in the paper about people going to Simpson County to buy, Franklin to buy. Personally, I've been out a lot on Sunday afternoon, and I've never noticed a caravan of people going to or coming from Franklin to purchase alcohol. So if maybe there are people in our county who are doing that, but I would think they are the ones who live closer to Simpson County. And when I get up on Sunday morning and I go to church, I don't want to even have to consider, am I going to meet someone when I leave that church who has stopped at a package store and couldn't wait to get home to drink it, and they're drinking it on the way home. I'd hate to think that my son and his family would encounter such a situation as that. No, I don't know, like I say, I don't know the reason why this is being brought up, how it became such an issue, but I felt compelled to come down tonight and speak against it. So I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morrow.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
can I just say one thing?
Sure.
You know, apparently there's some confusion out there too that the city of Bowling Green, this is a money deal for the city of Bowling Green. This doesn't make any difference to the city of Bowling Green. The state law says the city of our class should provide an opportunity for these business people to do the things that we've read. I can assure you the money that is going to come in for the Sunday license is not going to pay nothing for the city of Bowling Green. The amount is going to be so minute. You know, city of Bowling Green operates off of, and it was mentioned earlier by someone, our biggest income is the occupational tax. People that work in Bowling Green pay to work in Bowling Green through an occupational tax. Money coming in from licensing is very small and at the bottom end of the scale. So this is no wealth deal for the city of Bowling Green. You know, the key here is if Mr. Ferguson don't want to open on Sunday, that's his business. But if he wants to, this law that it was sent down to us from the state of Kentucky says that he can. We're not telling anyone, as Commissioner Hill said, we're not telling no one you've got to be open. You open if you want to. It doesn't make any difference to the five of us down here whether you open or not. But you have an opportunity to open if you choose to do so. That's the key that you don't have now. You don't have no choice now. You can't open on Sunday. I just wanted to make it clear about the license, because someone a week or two ago had a letter to the editor pertaining to the city making big money off of this ordinance that we're talking about here tonight. And I think anyone that knows anything about city government in Bowling Green knows where the money comes from. It comes from occupational tax. It comes from real estate, and it is broken down. Licensing fees is very low on the end of monies that come into the city of Bowling Green. Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, okay, next. Name, please, and address.
Yes, my name is Matthew Litzy. I live at 1112 High Street, Apartment 2, here in Bowling Green. First off, I'd just like to say thank you to Councilman Denning for cutting my speaking time in half by making most of my points for me. But I'd also like to say, in response to the gentleman who spoke before me, and as well as anyone else who might share that same opinion, that this is not about necessity. This is not about the city making money, and it's not entirely about fairness to business owners. It's about freedom. It's about, if I want to make the choice to go out and buy a bottle of wine on Sunday, I can do that. That is my choice, which affects my life. I'm not out here telling everybody else that they have to go buy a bottle of wine. So why should everybody else tell me that I can't? If I want to do that, that's up to me. As to the religious aspect, not everybody is required to hold Sunday as a day where you can't buy alcohol. And if the church, which I am proud to be a member of, wants people to not buy alcohol on Sundays, the proper way to address that is to minister directly to those people rather than banning it outright. If I remember correctly, the Great Commission, Jesus tells his followers to go out and make disciples, not go out and make legislation. So it's not about necessity. It's not about business. It's not about money. It's about freedom of choice. Thank you.
Before you go, could I get the spelling on your last name? I didn't catch it.
Yes, it's Littsey.
Thank you.
No problem.
Next.
Howdy. My name's Rex Reed. I live in Alberton, Kentucky. I don't live in the city limits, but I own Reed's Livery Winery. And I've done some research in the past working with the Warren County magistrates trying to get a Sunday ordinance so I could be open on Sunday. I would like to make a small distinction. If you're in the winery business, you start to understand that wineries are more of a tourism business than an alcohol business. But I have come across a few things that I just want to share with y'all tonight that is pertinent to your decision that you're going to make. Another thing, Mr. Denning and Mr. Waltrip, I was a policeman for 12 years in Austin, Texas, before I moved to Kentucky. And I know that there are people who are concerned about the safety in the streets, and I am too. I arrested a lot of DUIs, had very little compassion for someone who would do that. But a person who is an alcoholic or has a drinking problem, there's only two things he knows, and that's that Sunday comes every 7 days, and if they're closed on Sunday, he knows where to get it. And I had another one, but I forgot it. I'm a little nervous. The one thing I'd like to share with you is there's an organization that was called the Oklahomans for Alcohol Reform, and they did a 12-state study on states that passed Sunday sale laws and liquor laws. And of that study, they came up with, there were some things about raising revenue, which has been discussed, but the thing that I think we're probably most concerned of, under the social impact, Sunday sales provided necessary convenience and hardworking two-income families to get their to do their shopping, and there was no evidence of underage drinking or drunken driving that impacted these 12 states. No increase in that problem that we're all concerned about. And the one that is specifically done for Kentucky is a 2010 study done by a man named James T. Ratliff. He was with the Gatton Student Research. It's a Gatton Student Research publication from the Gatlin College of Business and Economics from University of Kentucky. And I will leave this with y'all. If you want to make copies and share it, I'd be glad to. I just have a couple of sentences I'd like to read to you. Under the moral and safety concerns Regarding wet status, the study shows that a dry county has more alcohol-related incidents per capita than a wet county. And it says making alcohol more readily available tends to accurately increase the safety of the county roads. And it says more in his conclusions that the dry status does nothing to deter the drinker from purchasing alcohol except a 20-minute drive to a neighboring county on Sunday. And then he went into, since it is an economic study, according to him, and this is above my pay grade, if the whole state were to go wet 7 days a week, it would raise $97.3 million in revenue. I don't quite understand that. Like I say, that's above my pay grade. But if y'all have any questions, I'd be glad to. And thank y'all for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Reed.
Thank you.
Mr. Ferguson.
My name is Lloyd Ferguson. I live at 1100 South Park Drive in Bowling Green, Kentucky. Mayor, City Commissioner, staff, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for allowing me to be here. I'm a small independent retailer. I have a liquor store at 3032 Louisville Road. And anytime changes are made, it affects everyone. You know, we have to step back and look at the big picture. You know, what are we really doing here tonight? How many people are we really affecting? You know, honestly, I would rather not be open on Sunday. But listening to all the comments, the commissioners, the news media, looks like that's going to happen. So be it. But that's going to force me to be open. Not because I have a choice, I have to follow competition. So as a business person, you know, some choices aren't mine, even though I have the option. I can open, I can close. I can go out of business if I don't open. So that's something a decision I have to make. But, you know, I'm glad to see the 1,000-foot rule brought back into action with this ordinance. I'm glad to see the hours recommended, 8 to 11. You know, make the game as fair as you can. Years ago, we conceded to letting the grocery stores and minute marts and quick markets or gas stations sell a couple hours early, a couple hours later. You know, I know we're a growing city. We've got people who work third shift. You'd be surprised the third shift business I do. You know, it's not a big business, but it's a service. And these people have become customers and friends. Now, what we'll do on Sunday is probably going to lose money, you know, for me. You know, that's a day of, it's a family day. You'll see less activity. You know, sure, somebody's going to be able to go to the store at 10 o'clock in the morning and buy a six-pack of beer and drive to the lake. Now, whether that's the right thing to do or not, you know, it's not a moral issue for us to discuss. It's a personal issue. But there again, you know, I'm really concerned about one main issue. You know, we talked about the 1,000-foot rule. We've talked about the hours of operation. This 90-10 rule. Now, throughout the state of Kentucky, there's retailers and retailer associations, and I've read and I've listened, and they commend the city of Bowling Green on this 90-10 rule. They wish the whole state was that way. Now, what we're doing here, we got a 90-10 rule that's been tested in the Supreme Court. Council can tell me different, but it's been tested, and it is upheld. Now, if we change it tonight to 80-20, we've changed that test. Now, okay, we changed it to 80-20. What happens 5 years from now when you all decide, or another group of people decide, we don't want any? All right, gas stations, truck stops, minute marts, Target. Everybody can have a liquor license. And do you want wine and spirits created all through our community for our young people to have that influence? You know, young people have immature minds, and they'll put things in their pocket. Now, would you like your 16-year-old son to walk into Target in their liquor section and put a fifth of vodka in his pocket, take off, consume it, and cause somebody to lose their life? Now, that 90-10 rule is there for a great reason, And it's in control. We're in the alcohol business, which has to be controlled. You can't let business just take it and run with it. Now, you can go to California and you can buy, I bought a 6-pack of beer one time when I was 18 years old out of the back of a school bus that didn't have any wheels on it in Tennessee. So, I mean, that is wide open. But control is good. You know, and I feel like there's a responsibility for us to make sure that we protect our young people. I mean, we've got people 25 years old that don't have a mature mind. But alcohol sales is an adult business. It's an adult purchase. And I feel like this 90-10 rule will protect that more and more. Now, if we change it tonight, you're opening a door. And seriously, a big door. But honestly, what the people I've talked to through the state of Kentucky, retailers wish every community had a 90-10 law when it came to spirits and wine. So as far as I'm concerned, you know, I have to accept things as they are. If we're going to be open on Sunday, everybody has the option to be open. But the 8 to 11 for package stores and 6 to 12 for the grocery stores and quick markets, if that's the way it is, that's the way it is. But I want to be on a level playing field. And, I appreciate the opportunity. You all have done a fabulous job taking all this criticism and taking all this positive feedback. You know, there was a time when you mentioned alcohol laws, I mean, it was political suicide. But I don't think it is here today. You know, I think you all would use good judgment, and the 90-10 rule is the best thing you can keep forced. Thank you for your attention.
Ms. Hill?
If I can just verify, Mr. Ferguson, so I understand currently the way this ordinance is written, we have it where package stores would be allowed to be open from 1 p.m. till 9 p.m. So you are saying you would rather see us change it where you could be like every other day of the week?
If the grocery store is going to be able to continue their hours every day, I want to have that same option.
Okay, great. So you want it 8 a.m. to 11?
I would rather not sell on Sunday.
Right, okay.
You know, I like my family. I like to be home. I like to go to my store and lock the door and wax the floors. But, you know, that won't happen anymore. Okay. It'll have to be at midnight at a greater expense.
Okay. And how, if you would explain how changing it from 90 to 80, I understand why we have either a 90 or an 80 in there to keep the Krogers, the drugstores from selling packaged spirits. How does 10% make that difference?
Well, you're changing an existing guideline that's been tested, number one.
Okay.
You know, you're changing it. So if you change it to 80, well, hey, they changed it to 80, let's change it to 50, then 40, and then 0. And then, the door is open. You open it wider and wider. If you're in the alcohol business, and of course you want to offer many things to your clientele, but, I mean, people that walk in your door, 90% of them want alcohol. They didn't come in there to buy a hat or a t-shirt. Now, if you entice them with a hat or a t-shirt, and that additional sale to you, but that's, does that additional sale mean that much to have to change an existing guideline that's been tested and something that we can live with? I've been in business since '85. I had to prove one time, are you in that guideline? Yes, I am.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Ferguson.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, sir.
I'm Larry Elliott. I live at 706 Wedgwood Circle, and I am the team chair of the First Baptist Church Public Affairs Committee. And Sunday sales of alcohol is not the best move for Bowling Green. Like he's saying, we've had things tested. 30 years it's been the way it is, and why should it change? And I'm going to quote the Bible, which is the best-selling book in the world. It's not necessarily the best read book in the world, but more people own it than anything in the world. And on Genesis 2:2, it said, on the seventh day of the creation, he rested and blessed the seventh day and made it holy. This is the first time in the Scripture that God sets apart something as holy. And the last speaker pointed out that he would, he'd like to have that seventh day, but because of competition, he won't have it. Many counties and municipalities in the U.S. are dry on Sunday. This concept is a result of the colonial blue laws, which were passed to promote morality. Do we still need that protection today? Overwhelming yes, says Susan McCord in Augusta paper in Georgia. Sunday sales will increase crime. It's an interesting way that she said so. They anticipate an increase in domestic-related calls on Sunday because more people will drink at home. Many liquor store owners welcome the day of rest and oppose Sunday sales. If I listened to the news last night, right, somebody was testifying in front of you all on your, what was it, you had a work session, and he said he didn't want it open on Sunday, and I can see why. Dr. David Hansen stated there's an overwhelming evidence that alcohol adversely affects driving-related skills, such as vision, reaction time, judgment, and ability to divide attention. So, why would we want to have more people possibly being afflicted in this way? Professor Dallas Weed and 106 members of his church, in a letter to the Daily News October 13th, 2013, rightly pointed out that what tax revenues that you will get will be, there will be more expenses because of the alcohol consumption frequently contributes to automobile crashes. The following data was obtained by me through October. The number of alcohol-related statewide arrests was 32,624. The number of alcohol-related arrests in Warren County was 1,603. The number of alcohol-related arrests in Bowling Green was 1,231. The number of alcohol-related WKU campus arrests was 162. So with this statistics, you know, well, why do you want to put more flames on a fire? Why do you want to roll out the barrel that much more? So I don't think we need more availability of alcohol to our residents. In closing, notice that City Commissioner Joe Denning was quoted in the Daily News November 18, 2013, saying, in order to continue to grow and be the city that we need to be, we need to change with the times. And that's the problem that has happened. And it's been great with the laws the way it's been. Sodom and Gomorrah changed with the times in Genesis 19, and you all that Bible students know what happened to Sodom and Gomorrah when things just keep it going and getting worse. 80-20, you know, just keep it getting things looser. So he also was quoted saying there's probably not a great number of opposition to this. And they're not here tonight because there wasn't enough time for people to get here, probably because they didn't know that this was going to be here. I heard it when, yesterday in the paper? So how could they have been here? So we also know that this ABC law is sponsored by 3 commissioners, Melinda Hill, Bill Walter, and Joe Denning. So it looks like there's a 3-2 vote, maybe, and it looks like that it's going to go through. So why would you come here and talk in the first place? Well, at least we have a freedom to express what we want to, and I think that it should remain as it has been in the past. I've enjoyed living in Bowling Green since 1965. I'm sorry that there's those organizations that have to be, but it looks like people overindulge, and they will overindulge more with the more availability.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. I'm sorry, Ms. Hill.
Mr. Elliott, I'm so glad you brought up the blue law, because I'm going to date myself now, but when I was in college, the town that I attended college in had the blue law. So if I needed anything before I went back to college, I had to make sure I bought it in Bowling Green before I traveled 3.5 hours. And that's one reason why I support this. We don't have the blue law anymore. We allow other businesses to open. And why should they be able to be open and be away from their families and others not be? So I thought the blue law was interesting, and I'm all for family time. So it's interesting. So maybe that's something we should consider someday, going completely back to that.
Okay. Is there anyone else that has a comment?
I'm Wade Trauber, 2809 Nashville Road, Lost River Liquors. I was a fan of Blue Laws too, so I guess. But I'm not for the Sunday sales. I'm a Christian man myself. I believe following the Bible. God says work 6 and rest 1. And I believe that's what we should do. Not try to be greedy. But if y'all pass this Sunday law, I will, like Lloyd said, I'll have to open. Our customers are creatures of habit. They're used to coming to one spot. The way they do right now is they put their 6 days of drinking, or their 7 days of drinking, into 6. Most everybody that comes to my store says it's Saturday. Give me 2. Or let me get an extra one because tomorrow's Sunday. And there will be no more revenue. It'll just be 6 days of business spread out over 7. I'll lose my day with my family. And I don't think it's right. Like I said, I think God laid out a good plan. We're supposed to rest 6, work 6 and rest 1. And I'm glad that you're on the 90-10 thing. You can't say no more than what Lloyd said. And the 1,000 feet rule. That's where I'm located at. If you'll see, everybody's pushing that 1,000 feet. I mean, within a mile radius right there, we've got 4 or 5 liquor stores there on Nashville Road. So I'm glad to see y'all going to keep that in place because there's a reason for that, so they don't get all crammed in and look so messy and, you know, soliciting and stuff. But there's a lot of stores that are hanging on right now. I mean, y'all know there's liquor stores, package stores that have closed. And this, if Sunday sales gets passed, it very well could push some more stores out. Because like I said, it will be 6 days of business just spread out over 7, but we'll have to put another day of staffing on. All those expenses of keeping people working, just to be there to catch that extra, so somebody don't go to some other store that's open. Some little store attached to a gas station or, you know, in my case, right down the street. So I think we should keep things the way they are. You keep talking about fairness and stuff. Well, all these years, it's been fair that this is the way we had to operate. So it was fair because nobody else got any special privileges. But here recently, new businesses have come into town, like the people who are trying to get you to change the 90-10 law, because they're wanting you to do business the way they do business, because that's what they're accustomed to. And that's my personal sentiment. That's the way I feel, you know. And they're the ones who probably want the Sunday sales because where they come from, that's what they're used to. And they're used to that generating that type of revenue, which again, I say, it's not going to be any more revenue. The people who drink consume 7 days a week, they buy it in 6. And I appreciate you for your time, but I'm not for the Sunday sales. But if it passes, I will have to open just to keep my customers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Trauber. Appreciate it. Anyone else?
My name is William Bernier. My address is 1312 Sunway, Apartment C.
I didn't get your name, I'm sorry.
William Bernier.
Bernier, thank you, sir.
I run a bar downtown. My mother runs a bar on the bypass. And the guy before me, he's exactly right. Our customers are creatures of habit, and we cannot open on Sundays. And other businesses that sell food or whatever they might sell more than alcohol, they allow them to open. So therefore, us not opening on Sundays, our customers go somewhere else. We are a bigger city, or we're actually getting bigger, and I've been here my whole life too. I love this city. Our school is getting bigger. Most of our customers are college kids that walk from dorms or their houses downtown. It's not a lot of driving being done in the downtown bar area. And as far as the guy that's worried about people driving to the lake on Sundays, you know, I pray that you don't run into anyone drinking on any day, not just Sunday. People are going to drink Monday through Sunday, whether they want to or whether you want them to or not. Whether a liquor store is open, a bar is open, or a grocery store is open. And you know, I pray every day that you don't run into them Monday through Sunday, not just on Sundays. That's all I got.
Thank you, Mr. Bernier. Anyone else? Make sure you have the opportunity to express your opinions. Seeing no one else with any other comments from the commission?
I would just like, I know there's some other liquor stores represented here. If they would like to express their opinion at least on the hours. To me, some questions have come up on the 90-10 or 80-20 as we have it now, and the hours of being open.
I'd like to make a comment about that. Yes, sir.
My name's Randall Cochran. I'm the general manager of the Chuck's Liquor Stores in Bowling Green. I'm at 754 Pleasant Grove Road. And there's, between what Wade said and Lloyd said, they've covered everything, but a couple of things you may be failing to realize is on Sundays, convenience stores as well as some of your chain stores, they're already open. They're open for business anyway. So this is incremental sales for them. For us, there's a tremendous operational expense. So as Wade said, you're taking 6 days worth of business and spreading it out over 7 days, which is about actually it works out to about a 14% increase in operational expense. And for me, just doing a little quick math, depending on the hours that we set, it could be anywhere from, for me, in between $75,000 to $125,000 a year. So if there's no additional incomes, which I don't believe there is, unless we're expecting a flood of new drinkers to Bowling Green, which I don't see that happening, that money's going to have to come from somewhere. And I would say it would have to come from the payroll side, which that would equate to 4 or 5 jobs out of our monies. Not to mention a lot of the charitable things that we do for the community. Junior Achievement, Cops in the Shops, Meals on Wheels, the Historic District, Concerts in the Park, Boys and Girls Club, Hospice, SkyPack, Center for Courageous Kids. So if I'm spending all this extra money on operations with no additional incomes, that money's got to come from somewhere. So I'm sure you guys are fully aware how that works. 90-10, 80-20. Lloyd hit the nail on the head. You may open up a Pandora's box with that. What is 10%? Well, 10% of, what's 10% of $1 million? What if somebody does $1 million a year? Give them 10% of that to play with. And I would say if they're putting extra money out in operations or to be open, which you have to be, there's no retailer in this room that's going to let their business just walk away. You say you have the option to be open. I say we don't have the option. We can't afford to let those dollars go to our competitors. So as Lloyd said, it's a wash, or we're going to lose money. But the 90-10 versus 80-20. So if you start thinking about what could somebody do, what could they purchase to resell an additional 10%? Well, it depends on how much they're taking in. That could be a lot of things. So if you let retailers sell whatever they want, I would say they would get very creative. And you may want to think about why that the commissioners who set that forth, that 90-10 ordinance, which I don't know when that was or who did it, but they knew what they were doing. And they did it for a reason. Because there's certain things that you don't want to be sold in liquor stores. If you're selling alcohol, you need to sell alcohol. I think the best thing to do would just bag this whole Sunday thing and step back and take a look at it. I would suggest that maybe we talk to some other cities around the state to see and talk to the retailers. You can call the city and see how, well, there's a difference in it being a good thing and not having a adverse effect. Just because it didn't create any additional problems doesn't mean it did any good for some of these people that have went to Sunday sales. So I would suggest that you maybe call and talk to some of these retailers and see, did they gain business? Did it help? Because I would venture to say no. All you're going to do is spread the business out. I don't believe there's an independent retailer in this town that wants to be open on Sunday. I'm like Lloyd, I'd rather spend time with my family. But if we pass this ordinance, we will all have to be open to compete with the people who are already open. And they're already open selling gas and pizzas and, aspirin, whatever. All we've got is alcohol. So we have to compete. But it's just going to be very expensive for us to do it. And I would think before we make any decisions, we may want to step back and look at this a little deeper. Ask a few more questions. I don't know if we can do it, but we need to let this sleeping dog lie for a little bit. Think about this one.
Thank you, Mr. Cochran. Anyone else? All right. Members of the commission, any further comments or entertain motions for amendments if you have any items that you'd like to do?
You don't want any amendments?
Oh.
I'm sorry? Am I waiting on you, Joe?
Yeah.
Okay.
Joe, if I may.
Yeah,
while
go
you're
ahead.
looking there, I'd like to offer an amendment to, and Gene, you can tell us how to do this because I forget from time to time, but changing the hours, not do the 1 to 9, but change them to the 8 to 11. Do that.
It would be something to effect, I think it's 7601, the section you're looking at. The language would be something to the effect, the premises for which there's been granted a quota retail package license shall be permitted to remain open during the hours of 8 to 11 each day.
What page is that on?
Page
11.
Page 11, 7601. I basically just took out from Monday through Saturday and during the hours of 1, and then I took out on each day, basically 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. each day.
That's section 4-601, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I guess the only other issue I guess I have right now is discussing that 90-10.
You haven't made a motion yet then if you're going to discuss the 90-10 rule.
You want to do one at a time then?
Okay.
You want to do one at a time and amend it?
It might be easiest.
I don't care.
Make sure we get votes on.
Katie, would you like to do them one at a time?
Okay, I have a motion on
the
motion on the floor to amend section 4-601, the hours, delete 1 to 9 on Sunday and put 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. on Sunday. Is that correct?
Each day.
Okay, I need a second.
Second.
Second by Denning. I had motion by Waltrip, second by Denning. Is there any discussion on that part? No discussion? Okay, at this point, I think it's balls in our court, so we'll go ahead at this point and take our vote. Please call the roll.
Hill.
Yes.
Waltrip.
Yes.
Williams.
No.
Denning.
Yes.
Wilkerson.
No. Okay, that passes 3-2, and now you want to bring up a discussion of the 90-10 rule, and I don't think we have a motion on the floor if you just want to discuss it at this point.
I think there's been some valid points made for the 90-10. No one has spoken with anything else, and we've had some conversations, and no one's talked to me at all about the 90-10 or the 80-20, other than what was said at the meeting, the last work session that we had. I don't know that I would be opposed to putting the 90-10 back in. I don't know at this point. I'd like to hear what you all have to say about it.
It's fine. It seems like the majority of the people have spoken. That's what they would prefer.
I have no problem with it.
What I think Mr. Ferguson brought up was that since it had been tested in court.
Well, that's one of the things that obviously I think we have to give some consideration to. I thought, Mr. Ferguson, I thought that was a very valid point.
The court has overruled some areas of limitation on distilled spirits and wine, and I think the court case came out of Lexington, but it ended up being that grocery stores and pharmacies were both, one could sell wine under distilled spirits and the other one could not, and the court couldn't distinguish between a grocery store that had a pharmacy in it and a pharmacy that sold groceries, what the difference was. So,
right. As they stated, our 9% rules was upheld back in the 70s, I think, in Taylor Drugstore case. If you reduced it to 80 and we were challenged, the defense would be the same. That's a city prerogative to do it, home rule. I think there's also a state statute in ABC that says we can have rules more strict than state law, but less strict. So the defense would be the same. Whether we got challenged even today on 90% rule, whether it be upheld, I'm not going to make any promises. Things change. That was almost 40 years ago now. And as the mayor said, there's a decision right now in federal court. They came out of Louisville, Lexington one, I forgot where it came from, but a federal judge has ruled that the state statute that prohibits the sale of wine and distilled spirits in grocery stores was unconstitutional based upon that grounds. If you go to a lot of places here in the state, drugstores will sell, and the court said, well, how can drugstores sell and grocery stores not? Because, again, equity, fairness, that federal judge ruled that that statute is unconstitutional. There's a state statute, and that's now on appeal in the Court of Appeals, and who knows when they're going to get a decision on that or what that decision may be. But
I think that we've had, I think that there's been good discussion. One of the great things about a first reading is that there's a second reading. But I think maybe at least at this point, I'd like to offer that we amend it and put it back to the 90-10. If there's some more discussion.
And if you do that, it's page 7, section 4, hyphen 4.03. Now it says 80, and we underline 80, marking through 90. Basically, we just eliminate the 80 and remove the strike through the 90.
And let me, just to finish, I don't have many thoughts, so I'd like to finish one of them. And that is, again, we have 2 weeks between now and the second reading, and but I do believe maybe feel more comfortable at this point, after what I've heard tonight, at least, is putting it back to 90-10.
I have a motion on the floor to amend the proposed ordinance under section 4-4.03 delete the word 80 and return it to 90% on line 2. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Hill. Any further discussion? All right. Please call the roll.
Hill,
Yes.
Waltrip,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Denning,
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes. And that amendment passes unanimously. Now we have a motion and a second on the floor. Are there any other amendments that want to be proposed? I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry. Anything else? Okay. So we have now the first reading of the amended ordinance to 2013-42. We have a motion by Waltrip and a second by Denning on the floor. Any further discussion? Please call the roll.
Hill,
Yes.
Waltrip?
Yes.
Williams,
No.
Denning,
Yes.
Wilkerson.
No. First reading passes. There'll be a second reading at the first meeting in December. Thank all of you for coming. I know some of you may want to excuse yourselves, and that's quite acceptable. Next we have is first reading of ordinance 2013, number 43.
Ordinance approving joint ordinance with Warren County and amending Code of Ordinances. Ordinance approving joint ordinance with Warren County and amending Chapter 15, Business and General Regulations, to add a new subchapter relating to towing of vehicles from private parking lots and the regulation of private tow operators.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Hill and second by Waltrip. Mr. DeFebo.
Thank you, Mayor. This is sponsored by the whole commission, but I think it would benefit us all by Gene giving a brief overview of the sponsorship of this particular ordinance. Gene?
I think some time ago, I think several weeks ago, I think there was a meeting. You want to wait just a minute?
Wait, hang on just a second. All right, thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Harmon.
I think there was a meeting with representatives of the city and county. I think both were receiving some concerns, some complaints about some of the towing issues, particularly in the downtown area. That was followed up a few weeks after that, where I got a call from, or I need to call an email, I forgot which, from Amy Milliken asking if we'd have any interest in preparing a joint ordinance for the city and county. I think I contacted see here is the interest, and eventually I heard from a couple of you there may be some interest in doing that. So I went ahead and drafted an ordinance, sent it to Amy last Monday to look at as well. I would tell you, like I said, and maybe I shouldn't say it, I kind of thought this would probably go on a work session first because it is kind of a working document. But like a lot of ordinances, I'm not going to invent the wheel. Some of these have been done by other places. So the first thing I did, I tried to look around Kentucky to see who else had a similar ordinance. Quickly found that Louisville and Lexington both did. So I don't think there's anything wrong with stealing the work of other cities. So a lot of this ordinance came from a combination of Louisville and Lexington, with most of it, I think, coming from the Lexington ordinance. Also found other ordinances around the country, too. This is not a problem unique to Bowling Green or other places, or an issue unique. I think a lot of other cities have looked at this issue too, and have come in with some regulations to try to regulate towing off of private property or parking lots. So again, this is kind of my first draft of this. I've sent it to Amy to look at. I think she called me Friday, I think, and said she's got a couple of issues that she wants to meet with me about. So I'm not sure what we'll be doing tonight on this one. So we may have a couple of changes at some point. I know Alan's here tonight representing one of the towing companies, and I know I got a letter from you today. I haven't had a chance to read it, but I got like a 3-page letter from him today too about this ordinance. So I'm not sure if you want to go over it, but basically it establishes some signage requirements. I guess that's probably the main thing. Plus, we also establish fees. That we do this for the towing and for the storage. I guess one of the issues that I guess is an issue maybe up in the air, I did not define what a private parking lot is. Louisville, in their ordinance, for example, they do exempt residential parking. Lexington does not. I didn't see a definition of private parking lot in theirs. I would tell you when I drafted this, I thought about that. I don't think anybody considers my driveway at home to be a private parking lot. So I don't think anybody would, in fairness and in equity and everything else, would do that. But it also crossed my mind, would it be of interest to, extending this particularly to large apartment complex parking lots that, that people may not understand that is a private towable lot if there's not signs, if there's not some kind of warning. Even though you see the apartment complexes there, may not cross somebody's mind unless they see a sign, I can't park there, and they come back and their car has been towed. So I know that's one issue about, I think everybody wants to resolve, is maybe a better definition of private parking lot. It's just hard to define it. If I come home and somebody puts their car in my driveway, I'm probably going to leave it for a while. If it's there a couple of days later, I'm probably going to have somebody take it away. Because at that point, I think they abandoned their vehicle in my car, in my driveway, but not just parked it. So we did have that issue I think we're going to be looking at. Like I said, the signage requirements, also put in some language about the storage yard, about making sure that somebody's there 24 hours a day or somebody's available 24 hours a day. This doesn't mean you have to have somebody there, but you got to have a sign that says a number. So if somebody gets their vehicle towed and they get there at 2 o'clock in the morning, they don't have to wait until next morning to get their car out. They can call somebody to come pick it up. So put that some of that language in as well too. Put in requirements that when they tow a vehicle that they immediately notify the police department and make sure they let the police department know at least the description of the vehicle they towed. If it'd be me, if I come out of a ball game and I can't find my vehicle, my first thought is somebody stole it. So at least if they call the police department can say, well, if you identify the car for me, I can tell you, yep, this particular record company towed your vehicle and this is where it is. Because a lot of people come out, they don't realize the car's been towed, they have no idea where it is. So at least notify the police department about where it is and what vehicle you took. Like I said, we talked about the speed limits. One thing that almost every, and I know Alan mentioned, I think in his letter, I skimmed it earlier today, but there is a section here that prohibits rebates. And I would tell you almost every ordinance I saw had that language. I think Louisville and Lexington both do, plus others I saw too. And by rebate it means that prohibits a towing company from telling a private property owner, no, you enter into a contract with me and I'll charge for the tow and then I will put some of the money back to you. The sharing of the revenue of the tow. Most ones I've seen, Louisville and Lexington both prohibited rebates, and I put that language in as well too. Penalties, since this was a joint ordinance, I thought criminal penalties were more appropriate. I know we do code enforcement and we do civil penalties, but civil penalties, sometimes aren't, who do you do it to? Do you do a civil penalty against the driver who took the vehicle or the owner of the towing company? Exactly who do you do this to? Am I going to put a lien on a towing company property if it's out in the county or something? I'm sure I can put a lien on their property. And particularly since this was a joint ordinance, I just kind of thought that a criminal penalty is more appropriate than a civil penalty in this case. So that's probably the main points. I know, Alan wants to talk to you, discuss it with you as well. And I'll be glad to try to answer any other questions. I'm sure I skipped a section or two here too. Still trying to get through ABCs.
I understand. Thank you for the summary. Does anybody have any questions of Mr. Harmon before I open it up for discussion?
I don't have, well, I may have some questions for him, but tell me when,
just about it being a joint.
whenever.
Yeah. Go ahead. That's a good question to ask now. So.
Mr. Harmon, since this is a joint ordinance with the city and the county together, could you go over the approval process for this? What's going to be the requirement of readings here and approvals at fiscal court? And how long this is going to take?
Yeah, when does it become effective, and do we have to wait for the county to finish?
Yes. Yeah, it'll be 2 readings from each entity. It'll be a county ordinance, a city ordinance, and I think logistically, if it's a joint one, it won't go into place until the final one approves it. Or if the county decides if they're not interested, then I guess we can come back in and approve ours just individually. But I did this with the idea that, and the intent was that the city and county wanted a joint ordinance.
So it's a strong possibility, following up with Rick's question, it could be the first of the new year, 2014, before any parts, if not all, of this could be implemented.
That is, yes. I mean, it's two, if it's a joint ordinance, it's going to take 2 readings by both bodies.
And they have to agree to the language, the same language as we do for that to work.
Yeah, I would hope the final one that we do is identical language. That certainly makes it a lot easier.
I think that's why the county attorney asked us to, when we finish our discussion, to table it tonight to make sure that she has her bases covered too. Any other questions for Mr. Harmon? Mr. Simpson, I think you want to address us this evening, and I apologize, I don't have your letter to know from. So.
Do we, Mayor, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
Do we want to have comments from the commission first?
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were.
I'll sit down, Mr. Denning.
Excuse me just a minute. Simpson. I'm sorry, Joe, go ahead.
Simpson.
Go ahead.
As you mentioned, we have discussed this particular ordinance with
they have to do what I had to do a while ago. So go ahead. You have to do it too, Joe. So
what's that?
I go to the bathroom sometimes.
Oh, I'm just trying to figure out what's going on. Am I supposed to stop?
No, go right ahead.
Well, this particular discussion has been of great concern to me as one city commissioner. I am really concerned. I know both of the owners. I've known Mr. Canardi ever since he's been in the world. But I have some concerns about the 2 respective towing companies towing away cars. Now, if there are contracts and you represent certain owners and that can be proven, then fine and good. But the word out there, and the word that we hear from people, is that cars are being towed away from premises where they shouldn't be towed away from. Quite that simple. We know of a situation of a lady in Park City that contacted us. Maybe the next day her car was towed away. It appeared that it shouldn't have been towed away. I think we want to make sure that it is clear that there are other things that has to be in place before either one of you can go on lots and tow the cars off. And I'm not speaking as an attorney because I'm not. And Alan is here and Gene can relate to those, but I think it's very important for both of you to know. I was here right across the street here today. This lady, young lady's car had been towed twice off of a lot here on Main Street within 1 week by both of your records. One time, one the other. Now, you may have a contract on that property. I don't know. But what does concern me is that we've got basketball season has started. Weston's basketball season has started. High school. And I have to be honest. I don't want someone coming into Bowling Green that is coming to visit our city at Sky Pack, at the restaurants, and they park their car and come back out and their car is gone. And I don't think, and I'm not an attorney, these two can tell you, that if a car is not parked illegally, and if a car is parked illegally, if I go out here and park my car in front of the yellow hydrant, I hear fire hydrant. Neither one of you have the authority to move that car. You can sit there all day unless a sworn law enforcement officer moves that car. I know of instances where cars have been removed from people here with SkyPack, and a call was made to one of your companies, and those cars were brought back down there immediately. Somewhere along the line, and it's just my interpretation, it appears that it is a spot and tow process that's going on out there. And I hope that's not the case. But I am concerned as to why vehicles are being towed off of people's lot if the people that own the lot are not specifically telling you to tow the vehicles. And that's happening. It is happening. It's happening in Bowling Green, Kentucky. And I have to be honest. The city of Bowling Green owns a lot at 7th and State Street, where the old Webb Chevrolet place used to be, auto equipment, office equipment. People park over there on that grass at concert in the park and any other activities. The Chamber of Commerce president was here earlier, and I asked him, do you have people that park at SkyPack and other places that park on the Chamber's lot moved? He said, no, sir. I have not given anyone permission to move vehicles off the lot. People are scared to park because they feel that both of you are going to tow their vehicles for nothing that they've done. Now, I know I may sound a little rough, but I'm telling you the truth of what's going on. Hell, I'm scared to park my car. And the mayor and I and Billy Walter, we go to concerts in the park all the time. And anyone can park on that lot. Anyone. And and another thing, I guess, is that, and I give the example of me parking in front of a fire hydrant. The only people that have a responsibility and the authority to move that vehicle is a sworn police officer. City police, sheriff, Western Kentucky police, university police, state police, FBI, anybody. But the two record companies here have no authority to be going on lots if they don't have a written contract with those people to tow vehicles. And it really concerns me. It's a scary situation for someone to go to SkyPack and park on a lot where there's no signage, and they come out and their car is gone, as the lady from Park City did, and has got to pay somebody $150 to get the car. May not have $150 on them. They're just taking their child to SkyPack. Whatever we're doing, we've got to do something different. It's got to be different, and it needs to be immediate, and it's a serious problem. I won't go any further than that, Mayor.
Anyone else have comments before I ask Mr. Simpson to come up?
And I didn't mean to cut you off, Alan, but I thought...
I think you probably did, but I'll forgive you anyway. My name is Alan.
Did we get a letter from you or something?
I sent one. I think it went out about noon today, and it is a rather long. It's almost a full 3-page letter. Then we addressed several of the concerns that we had, and I'll try to give the broader sense, we have some specific concerns with this particular ordinance. I represent Randy Huff, who owns Southside Towing. And I think Mr. Canarney here owns Pat Cassidy's, and I don't know if there are any other record company drivers here or not, but from time to time, Mr. Huff will call me about issues, and I've represented Mr. Huff, and for whatever reason, he's getting picked on. I don't know if that means he's busier or he's had some drivers do some things that have upset some people, and I'm as sorry as I am about the lady from Park City getting her car towed, and anybody else for that matter. When your car gets towed, it's like it's been stolen. No matter whether you've done something wrong or not, it's just an awful feeling, and we understand that. And that makes the business that they are in a very tough business.
Alan, can I add one thing? Today, I had the same lady to tell me that someone from Randy's business, I don't know who it was, whether it was him or not, had approached them and told them that he could make sure they had parking available for their business on a city street. Now, whether or not that is, the person didn't have no reason to lie to me, but the person came in to solicit their business for towing.
Well, and let me say this about that. I know there's some anecdotal stories about the lady from Park City and people getting their car towed, and you're going to get somebody who's mad that's going to pick up the phone and call you and tell you stories. And whether that's true, I don't know. But I can't really stand here and respond to anecdotal, I'm mad, I called somebody stories. And that's why one of the reasons we would like to have the ability to have a working session or meet with staff and try to iron this out. Quite frankly, it's sort of ironic when we started the meeting tonight, we're talking about deregulating the liquor business, and now we're going to start regulating the towing business, which seems to be a little bit inconsistent. But that being said, we realize that there are people who are upset. I don't think we have to regulate this business, but if you're going to regulate it, we want to meet with you and work with you. Bowling Green has seen an enormous growth in the number of record businesses. I think there are about 24, 25 record businesses here. 10 years ago, there were probably 12. And one of the things that Mr. Huff's business does is we do have contracts with privately owned. Mr. Huff understands that he can't go tow your vehicle if you're parked in front of a fire plug on public property. And what Mr. Huff has done is he has several properties that are owned by private people, whether they're apartment complexes or a gas station or whatever it may be, businesses. And Mr. Huff provides a service to those businesses, but not only going and making sure if there's someone parked somewhere that they have the right sticker on their car, because that is a problem. People park in other people's parking places. And so they patrol these lots not just to go out there and troll, if you will, but they've been required by their contract with these private property owners to go out. They want them to pull cars out of the lot that are not supposed to be there. So this is a private property issue where people in this community have contracted with Southside Towing to say, we want you to tow cars if they are parked in our lot and they're not supposed to be there. So, and I think what we are experiencing is something we've never experienced before in Bowling Green, is that we're kind of in a period of adjustment right now because we have grown to the point where we have a lot of people. We have the tourism coming in, and we want people to enjoy Bowling Green, but by the same token, the people who own the businesses may not want somebody parked in their parking lot. Mr. Huff has told me on numerous occasions that, you know, the morning after a concert or the morning after some event we may have here in Bowling Green, these business owners are finding beer bottles or trash or whatever it may be all over their parking lots. And that's one of the reasons that they've hired Southside Towing to patrol their parking lots. So while most people come to Bowling Green are going to be respectful of private property owners' rights, not everybody is. And that's the right of a company downtown. If they want to have somebody towed out of their lot, they're not supposed to be there, that is their right. And we do post signs. I brought some of the signs. One of the things in the proposed ordinance was the signage. And we don't have a problem with signs. Mr. Huff has got about $25,000 worth of signs out there right now. If you make him change every one of those signs, that's a significant issue. And so we want to talk to you all about the types of signs in a controlled, have the ability to meet and talk with staff about that. I understand the Western issue. It's my understanding that Western doesn't tow cars. They put boots on them or write them a ticket. And how much that is, I don't know. But I don't think Western tows cars. And Mr. Huff is not going up and patrolling the parking lots at Western. That's not what they're supposed to be doing. Now,
I think
again, and I don't mean to be snide about this, but we can't. If somebody's car's gotten towed, there could be an issue about that. I understand that. Mr. Huff's not perfect, and the people who work for him are not perfect. But that's why we need to meet and not give a character assassination to Randy Huff and Southside Towing over a few instances out of the hundreds of cars that have been towed. We only hear about it when somebody gets upset and they think they've been done wrong. There's hundreds of people who've had their cars towed that just pay it and go on. They know they've done something wrong. And so I don't think we should get into a mudslinging contest. And one of the reasons I say that is that Mr. Huff runs a sober ride bus all weekend at no cost to this community. He takes home hundreds of people every weekend. 1,000 a week, he says. And we've had people complain to the state about that. And I've talked to Ms. Milliken about that. Ms. Milliken says, well, I think it's a great thing that Mr. Huff is doing to provide people a sober ride home. So he is not the villain that people want to portray him to be. And so, every time he gets assassinated in the newspaper, he always says, well, why won't they ever print anything good about what I try to do for this community? And so let's keep that in mind. Again, we want to work with the City Commission to come to a resolution of this that's fair. And I'm not going to sit here and attempt to read the letter, but there are several things that need attention in this ordinance. The definitions of private parking lot, how big the signs have to be, what has to be on the signs. One of the problems that Mr. Huff brought to my attention after I got a copy of the proposed ordinance was there are some lots that charge gate fees that's not addressed in here. It's something that they charge for the tow, and then they're going to charge a person a gate fee to come and get their car if it's after hours. So there are all kinds of little issues that requires a working knowledge of how this business works. And it's not just a matter of, well, I don't like that my car got towed or my friend's car got towed and I want my money back. These folks spend hundreds of dollars in gasoline all the time, every day, operating their business, not to mention the overhead of the labor. So we do have a concern with the city just saying, well, it's $118. If I understand the proposed ordinance, Mr. Harmon, it's $118, which includes 3 days of storage at $10 a piece. Yes. I don't think there's a place in this county that stores vehicles for $10 a day. I'll just tell you that. And if the state police or the city police or the sheriff's department sends somebody out and they take a car and they impound it and it's been wrecked, those people theoretically would not be covered by this, and they could store cars at $30 a day, and it's as if their businesses are more important than the ones who are towing off of private parking lots. So I think there has to be some discussion about what the price is. The other concern we have is this what I think is commonly referred to as a drop fee. I can just imagine a tow truck driver's out hooked up to somebody's car. We've all can imagine somebody saying, hey, wait, that's my car. Well, who's going to decide if it's all the way hooked, part of the way hooked, not hooked? It invites arguments and perhaps fights, is all I can tell you.
And it will as well if they drive off with it.
I'm sorry?
I think the purpose I put that in was try to stop fights on the lot.
Well,
it needs to be resolved on the lot.
We don't want to be lizard lick towing. We don't want fights with our record drivers. That we don't want that, and we want to talk to the city about that. This rebate thing, we can address that in our meetings. But if a private landowner wants to say, look, I want you to come out to my lot and make sure that there are no cars that are after 10 o'clock every night. Doesn't matter what kind of car it is unless it's a police car, according to this. We want those off our lot. but I want part of that. You know, capitalism is still alive and well in Bowling Green. I don't think there's a problem with that. You all may not think it's right, but it's that private property owner's right to contract and the right of contract. And quite frankly, I think it would be unconstitutional for the city to pass an ordinance that's saying that you can't be in business with somebody else. I don't think you want to send that message out, but we can address that as well. The issue about emergency vehicles, I think I pretty much set that out in the letter. We don't want to tow a police vehicle. I don't think, as far as I know, that hasn't happened. We don't want it to happen, but we need to have some way to identify that that's an official vehicle. If there's a drug task force car that's left parked somewhere and it doesn't have an official plate or something on it, you know, there's no way, quite frankly, for them to know if it's on official business. If a police officer, God forbid, were to take their take-home car home and they park somewhere illegal, how do we know if they're on official business? But I think Mr. Huff probably understands, and I don't speak for Mr. Canarney, but I would imagine that the last thing they would want to ever do is hook up a police car and tow it off. I don't think you're going to have that problem at all. And one of the last things, I guess, that we wanted to talk about, and Mr. Huff has somebody on call 24 hours a day. A lot of these things they're already doing. They photograph cars before they tow them. They do a lot of things that you probably aren't even required by this ordinance as good business people. So, but I have a real concern about this being a crime. You know, the one thing the ordinance doesn't address, it says it's a misdemeanor. Is it a Class A misdemeanor? Up to a year in jail? Can you imagine? We're going to put a guy in jail because he towed somebody's car? I have a real problem with it being a crime at all. And if it's going to be something, it ought to be, quite frankly, it ought to be a civil matter. But if there's going to be some enforcement with the city and or the county, there ought to be a mechanism where it's a civil matter and perhaps there's a fine or something of that nature, but not a crime. This should not be a crime if somebody has a legitimate dispute as to whether or not their car should have been towed. And so that is probably one of our biggest concerns. So, you know, we're all ears. We want to meet with city staff, however you want to do this, but we would like to have some input into it because Mr. Huff, I can speak for him, has a significant investment in his business and wants to be a tax-paying, law-abiding citizen. So, again, I would just ask that that we work together and not against each other.
Ms. Hill, did you? I'm sorry, I thought you had a comment or question.
Oh, no, I was just writing down his things.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
if I can, I'd just like to say that I agree with what's been said. From both sides of the table, there are parts about the business that we don't know. It's a legitimate business. Some may be operating it professionally, while some are not. What we want to try to do is come up with some standards for a process that works and that doesn't ruin our reputation with our visitors to the city. People are going to park in spots where they are not supposed to park. I mean, I see people parking in handicapped spots that shouldn't be parking in handicapped spots. But we need to have a process lined out, appropriate notification, so that people feel safe to park where they're parking, that, ooh, this is okay. And that's what we need to shoot for.
If I may address it, one of the things I may have mentioned it to, I don't know who I mentioned it to now. I don't know if I mentioned it to Commissioner Denning or the mayor or Amy or maybe Jean. I don't know who I mentioned it to now. But one of the things that may be overlooked a little bit, I went to SkyPack last Thursday night for the Ronnie Dunn concert. And I ate at Vino's across the street there. And they have very tight parking, so you kind of look around. And one of the things I did, I parked and then I got out because there's a sign in that grassy area and I couldn't remember what it said, so I parked and I got out and I checked to make sure that I was legally parked. Okay? Now, we talk about people's cars also getting towed at SkyPack, and this is where the city comes in. I think the city may have to do a little bit better job of signing certain places that is public parking so that people do know where the public parking is as opposed to private parking. So, you know, the onus could be in some part on the city to say this is public parking as opposed to people guessing. And the other thing I will say, not only as a representative of Southside Towing, but as a taxpayer, is we've got quite a large investment at that humongous concrete structure right next to SkyPack. It costs $5 to park in, and I would encourage people to use that $5 parking. There's plenty of parking for SkyPack. So, if somebody decides they're going to park in someone's private business to save $5 and they end up getting towed, people do silly things all the time, or if they didn't, I wouldn't have a business. But so, there's a parking structure. There's plenty of parking by SkyPack. They valet park a car. Costs a little bit more, but when it's raining, sometimes that's what my wife tells me to do. So just saying, the city has made parking down there very available. If you're going to go to a concert in the park, park in the parking structure for $5.
But a person can park over on the city parking lot on the corner, and based on the way things are now, come out and their car may be gone.
Well, again, I don't, and I can't get into specific instances. I don't think it's fair to you, and I don't think it's fair to these business owners to engage in, well, I heard this happen, will this happen, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you that they probably haven't made mistakes from time to time. They're not going to sit here and tell you that they're perfect, and they try to rectify those situations when they do. At least I can speak for Mr. Huff, and I know he has done that. So, we want to work together, but there are options at SkyPack. There's options at Concert in the Park. I mean, the city's done and private enterprise combined together has done a great job putting that parking structure up. I never thought I'd see a parking structure in downtown Bowling Green growing up as a kid, but it's there. And so we want to work with you, not against you, but we also, and I trust that you will recognize that these gentlemen have quite an investment here, and it's not something you just want to start squeezing them out of business. Now, some of the bigger companies might still survive. I believe if I'm right, Mr. Huff is not on the city or county tow list because of some issues about that. And I could stand here and tell you anecdotal stories that they tell me about they don't feel like they get treated fairly. And I won't get into all that, but let's work together, and we'll be glad to sit down with Mr. Harmon and whoever else needs to be involved in that process. But we want to educate the city to this business also, because it is a different creature.
One thing I would ask too, if during this process of trying to get together some procedures that are good for all and notification, we're going to have, because it's going to take some time to get all this done, and we've got some significant events that are going to occur in this community over the next 30 to 45 days with a lot of out-of-town people that are coming in. So if we could just be cognizant of that, and we got people coming in for these high school football championships. We want to keep those championships here in Bowling Green, Kentucky. We're not going to keep them if we keep towing people's cars that are here to watch the games. So if we can just have a little bit of compassion about some of these things. I'm not talking about SkyPack. You're right about the parking structure. And Western's got parking structures too, but they need more. So especially in those cases, if we could just kind of back off.
I've talked to Mr. Huff about that before. He lost a couple of contracts from private business owners because he would not tow during certain events. He called me and said, "Should I tow cars?" I said, "Nope." And I think it was a concert in the park. And he lost a couple of contracts. His customers got mad, and they'll go out and contract with somebody else. Message received loud and clear. I completely understand that, and if they didn't hear you, I'll remind not only Mr. Huff but Mr. Canardi as well. I think that's very understandable. Again, I think the city and/or the county could help with some signage in some places. If it's a city parking lot, this ordinance would require a sign at every entrance and exit. Then let's put a city parking sign at every entrance and exit, so there's no question about it.
I'm sorry.
Thank you, Ellen. Mr. Huff, I'd like to say I was either a lucky recipient or unlucky recipient to receive a towing experience from your company. It was on family weekend at Western's football game. And unfortunately, I told a gentleman, a father from Indiana, yes, you can park here. There are no signs. And guess what? We were towed. Looked everywhere. There were no signs. So told out-of-town people we could park. I was towed. He was towed. And unfortunately, I asked, as Mr. Williams said, let's work together before all this is resolved. But train your employees as well. I was told I had an hour and a half to get my car. If I didn't get it by that time, I would be paying an additional fee on top of the $150 I'd already paid. I was not told that there was 24-hour service. I had a limited amount of time to get it, paid my fine, so I don't carry that much cash, had to go get the cash and take it to your business. Interesting that while I was there, I talked to the employee waiting for someone to get there to unlock and get my car, and I asked, have you had any mad customers tonight? There was a gentleman from Indiana that was furious with us. And I said, I told him he could park there. I asked that you please apologize. I said there were no signs. So please, like he said, work Western, on these big sporting events. That's big economic boom for our city. I do think you both provide a valuable service to us, but let's all work it out together to get this resolved and just make it a better community for everyone.
Mr. Harmon, you gave us an Attorney General's opinion regarding the authority of towing companies to make a decision on their own to pick up a particular car.
Yeah, I don't have those from me, but I think there's two that I found when I researched this. In fact, there's a state law that says you can't tow off parking lots without a sign. It doesn't identify what the sign has to say or how big, but it says you can't tow without a sign. And there are a couple of references in that statute, OAG opinions. One of them, Lexington upheld Lexington's fees because they got challenged on their ability to establish towing fees, and that got upheld. And there's a second one, I think it's fairly old, I'm not sure it's really new, but question the ability of tow truck drivers to actually tow a vehicle based on a contract without having an actual owner of the property on site saying tow that vehicle. And if I'm reading Louisville's ordinance right, and I think I am, I think Louisville's may say that the owner has to give a written direction to the tow truck owner or tow truck driver. I want you to tow that blue Ford with license plate, whatever. Identifying the car, get them in writing saying, I direct you to tow that vehicle. Lexington's, I think they do either one, either a express approval or a written contract, either one. But that OAG opinion, of course, OAG opinions on that one do not carry the force of law. It's just kind of an advisory opinion, but that opinion does raise the question as to whether they can actually tow without being, based on a contract, without being tow that vehicle.
I'll just read this here. References the KRS explicitly gives the discretion to the owner or attendant of a privately owned parking lot to remove any unauthorized vehicle. The statute does not give such statutorily designated person the authority to delegate this discretion to any third party, such as a towing service. Under the statutory construction doctrine of, it's a Latin word that I can't read, the absence of such a provision implies its deliberate exclusion. In conclusion, as we read the statute, only the owner or attendant of the privately owned lot has the authority to order the removal of an unauthorized vehicle. This statute neither gives carte blanche authority to a towing service to remove vehicles at its discretion, nor does the statute give the owner or attendant the authority to delegate this discretion to a third party. Surprisingly enough, signed by Stephen Beshear, Attorney General, 1983.
Just so you know, the way Mr. Huff has done it, if there's not a sign on the property, he requires somebody actually meet them on the property and say, I want that car moved, and have whoever it is, the owner or the lessee or whoever, their authorized agent, sign.
I'm not sure by state law he has the authority to move without a sign, period.
Well, if you got somebody parked in your front yard, I
don't have a parking lot in my front yard.
I understand that, but that's where we get into what's the definition of a parking lot. So I think that's why we need some of these definitions, and we need to have them clarified. But that's that is their practice. Is if a gas station is closed over here on Broadway tonight, and they call and they say, you got to come get this car's leaking or it's doing whatever, it's been here sitting here for 3 days. We don't know whose it is. We want you to come and get it. They require them to sign off that they've authorized it, and they do like your ordinance suggests. They contact the police department so people know where their vehicle is. So in any event, again, we can get into all kinds of what ifs, and I know Ms. Hill is upset about her car getting towed. And I've talked to Mr. Huff about that, and he's as convinced that there was a sign there as you are that there wasn't. And fortunately, he kindly refunded your money, as I understand it. So, we can get into mudslinging, and that's what I'm trying to avoid. We want to work with you, not just sit here and try to do a character assassination of a business owner who's trying to operate within the law. So,
Adam.
Yes, sir.
In the particular case of the lender, where she was parked, did Randy already have an agreement with that place that she was told?
I believe I'm gonna have to defer to him. I'm gonna look around here, but I believe there was a sign and an agreement with that particular owner of that property.
But did he know the owner of that property, or
he had an agreement with them? Have a written contract with them.
Okay.
And Alan, I appreciate that, and I do have pictures where I was parked, so I'd be glad.
I understand, and that's,
And I was not mudslinging to Mr. Huff. It was just, my biggest concern was the gentleman from Indiana and what impression it gave of Bowling Green.
I understand that. I can tell you from personal experience, my youngest daughter had her car towed out of her own parking complex about 3 weeks.
The guy from Indiana, we ended up giving this van back.
Good, thank you.
That's how I know who you're talking about. The van from Indiana, yes ma'am.
So it happens. My daughter was legally parked in her own apartment complex, and her tire was over the line, and there were 3 empty spaces next to her, and they towed her, and she had to pay $125 out of her own pocket, and I figured it was a good learning experience for her. I'm sure she'll be thrilled to hear I talked about it on live television tonight. But things happen, and we're talking about exceptions, not the rule here. So I don't know. I would stand to guess that there was probably 1,000 cars towed or more in Bowling Green last year, and I don't think that we need to, pull somebody out and execute them because of 4 or 5 stories. So let's work together, and I'll just leave it at that and hope that we don't have to demonize Mr. Huff.
Mr. Harmon, we have our police contracts when we tow vehicles. There's a set fee, day fee, night fee, and storage fees, or not?
Yes, I think I looked at it this afternoon, our toll fees are quite a bit less. I think they're like $75, I think. Storage fees are more. I think it's $30 maybe. Of course, a little bit difference too on most of those. A lot of those are wrecks, insurance companies are picking them up. I had personal experience there a few months ago, and I would tell you my insurance company had that vehicle out of that parking lot the next day. Because it was, they told them my vehicle was their vehicle, they weren't going to pay them, so they had them out quick. And insurance was picking up the cost. But I think they're towing 75 maybe. But then I think our storage fees are a little more. I think they may be 20 or 30 a day, I think. I'll go back and look again. But I think what you're going to do here, like I said, if you direct me to, I'll contact Amy tomorrow, and I'll try to get with her as quick as I can get with her.
Yeah. And the thing is, if the city can charge $30, but he can only charge $10, that doesn't make any sense.
No, it's not the city getting it. We don't have a tow. We don't have a yard.
Well, but you're towing something in many cases against someone's will to a location. If they're allowed to charge $30 and he can only charge $10, it just doesn't. It's just.
But the fee is also 75 versus 118. Want to and do the 75 too.
But if you're going to regulate, regulate it all. Don't just regulate the part that seems to be the problem right now. Because I've dealt with cases where there'll be a wreck and some of these fees can get to be something else. $30 a day. So.
Thank you, Mr. Simpson. What I think we're going to do at this point is move to table this until at least the next meeting, and give you an opportunity to meet with Amy Milliken, the county attorney, and make sure that we get our in language together and in a row. You've heard our comments and can relay them to, heard our comments and relay them to the county attorney and Mr. Simpson's comments, and you'll have that letter to address too.
And we'll try to get back to you as quick as we can.
And but our biggest concern was the state football championships coming in. If we need to have special meetings to deal with it, we will. We can have your all's word that we won't be hearing from anybody. We'll take our time and do it a little bit better.
He says you have his word. I know you have Mr. Huff's word. There's 22 other towing companies in town, though, so don't.
I can tell you last year at the state football game, I have a particular lot I had a contract with. There was 78 cars in there, and I had the owner screaming at me to get them out of there. And I would tow one about every 2 hours, and we went as slow as we could. And the police department even knew that we were trying to work with them. We understand that people are coming into town, they're spending money. We understand that. So last year, I mean, if I was trying to give us a bad name, I could have towed 80 cars and had all 80 trucks out there.
There are options that we can do, even if you want to put somebody in the parking lot asking them not to park there rather than tow them away for this upcoming. That will give us time to address this and make sure that we do it right.
That business owners want, they want to be open and do business.
Right, and they may not want people parking in their parking lot.
Exactly.
Their parking lot, they say, I don't want anybody.
Now, we recognize the right for them to keep their parking lot clear and the problems they have with alcohol and so forth. Mr. Walker.
Since obviously this is not going to be resolved before all the events you all are talking about, I think probably meeting with Mr. Simpson, other wrecker operators, and getting their input to make it as fair as we can on both sides, I think is a good idea.
And that, I mean, these two are here. There's plenty of other guys who aren't here.
No, that's what I'm saying, not just. But.
And he touched on it earlier. Basically, me and Bruce, we specialize in private towing lots. That's how we survive. With 24 other companies in town, it's this is what we specialize in. It's private towing lots. So that's probably why me and him are here tonight, because it's what we specialize in. But we definitely want to work with the city. We understand nobody's happy when they get the car towed, but we want to partner with you to work with you.
That's actually my comment, is I hope that happens.
All right, we've got a motion on the floor from me. I need a second from Ms. Hill to table this until our next meeting, give you the opportunity. So, motion table's on the floor. There's no discussion. Please call roll.
Hill?
Yes.
Waltrip?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Denning?
Yes.
Wilkerson?
Yes. Thank you for coming in. We appreciate the input. Thank you so much. Next is Municipal Order 2013-194.
Municipal order approving subdeveloper agreement and assignment and assumption of rights and obligations under master developer agreement, which includes a city TIF application related to Block 6 of the WKU Gateway to Downtown Bowling Green Development Area with Brookside, Kentucky, LLC.
Motion.
So moved.
Motion by Waltrip, second by Williams. Mr. Febo.
Thank you, Mayor. Municipal Order 17, 18, and 19 are all in the same family. By way of direction, I'm the sponsor tonight because Mr. Brooks' assistant asked that this be put on your agenda tonight. So it might be helpful if Mr. Brooks came forward to discuss 17, 18, and 19 and answer any questions you may have. Due to the timing in which it was submitted, there was not time to undertake a discernment of what was being asked here until late yesterday. So a lot of the questions will be original from you to Mr. Brooks.
Is that what you want to do, or you want to?
No, I'll be happy to try to answer your questions. Yeah.
All right.
So I'll just ask, do you want me to explain these? You want me to take them one by one, and you want to take them one at a time, and I'll do it any way you want to do it?
We'll start with the first one, if you don't mind, which is the Block 6.
Yes. Blocks, and just to identify the players here, you approved a zone change sometime in the last perhaps 6 weeks for an organization called Trittenbach, and they're going to develop substantial residential development up in what we call Block 12B, Mr. Denning, which is just across 13th Street, just below the parking garage and the hotel. So I know we're talking about Block 6 here, but this entity, Brookside Kentucky LLC, is the same exact people. It's the same family from Missouri. Okay, so what we're doing in Block 6 is the long-awaited residential development on the College Street side of the parking garage. So a lot of this stuff, you've seen these subdeveloper agreements before, pretty kind of standard stuff. This provides the real estate for this developer to build a residential development. It provides some TIF revenue, although frankly probably not much because it's residential and it won't generate much TIF revenue. It's going to be the plan, I guess legally Gene would tell you can't discriminate about who can be in your apartments, but this is going to be very much not a student development. They're not going to market to students. The one that we'll talk about later, perhaps up in Block 12B, just the opposite. It will be students, and when they have a student development, they don't want non-students there. They find it just works best to not do that. So in Block 6, residential wrap, it'll have, they're working on designs now, but it'll have, let's just say 50 units, and it'll be 4 or 5 stories tall, and it'll cover up that parking garage. So questions about that one?
I'm going to page 4, which is paragraph 5.
Yes.
You're allocating 50% of the project's incremental revenues. You're talking about 50% of the 80% that they...
50% of the, whenever we're talking about TIF revenues, we're talking about the 80%, correct.
All right. And then in the third sentence from the bottom says maximum revenues. What is that?
I'm sorry, where are you, Mayor?
In same paragraph, item C, receive TIF revenues equal to the maximum revenues. What's that definition?
That's a really theoretical. There is a maximum amount of TIF revenues that we can receive, and if we hit that, we can't pay. If we're past that, then there won't be any more TIF revenues for the authority, so we can't share them. But that's a pretty theoretical number. The TIF revenues in this project actually are going to be, so you're going to see that in all of them, I think.
Right.
And the TIF revenues in this particular project are going to be minimal. In fact, Jeff might help me, but I don't know that there may be a little employment in this development. You know, there might be a resident manager or something, but I don't think there's any, I know that there's no retail planned, and so the only TIF revenue would be property tax. And as you all know, that's not going to be a whole lot, and we've got to generate a fair amount of property tax down there to get back to zero, right?
Possibly individual income tax for anybody moving in?
Could be, yes, there could be, that's right. There could be individual income tax.
And then any state and local, or local net profit, local and state income tax on the corporation or Brookside from their net profit from that, those apartments?
That's right. So that's right. There will be.
But are they going to, maybe you said, are they going to have like a manager on site, or are they going to be off site, or you don't know?
I can't answer that, but I would say they might have one employee there. Okay. It's not a huge development. It's just 50 units, so maybe not even that, frankly.
And I think the question may have been asked, I think on Block 12 he may have defined it, but he's asked about the maximum revenues, equal to the maximum revenues. Is that basically, is that definition the amount they spend to build the wrap? Because I'm not sure we have defined in this agreement what maximum revenues is. Because I assume if it cost them $5 million to build the wrap, that's the maximum revenues?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, what we are allocating to them is only 1/2 of the TIF revenue that this project generates.
Up to a cap.
Up to a cap. And I'm not sure I know what that cap is, but.
How do you determine, is there a formula for that? I'm just at a loss to know. So.
I don't want to make it up.
I mean, is it written into the law that there's a maximum amount of TIF revenue that can be generated?
There are practical, Mayor, I can't answer your question.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no.
But one of the logical caps would be the cost of that project.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want to give them $10 million in TIF revenues if the project was only a $5 million project, right?
They're going to get 1/2 of what they generate. That's what they're going to get.
Okay.
I mean, if there is a cap that's a sort of a maximum amount, they're not going to.
Okay, can I jump in or two?
Well, I got one more question for
Okay.
you. Back in, I forget when this, in June of 2012, the city put together a map of where revenue would be distributed. When revenue was generated in a block, it would be identified as going to a certain entity.
Yes.
And the map indicates that revenue was to come to the the money in block 12 that I think where this development was. It looks, again, I'm just trying to understand. It looks like that money was coming back to the city to help us pay for the baseball park bonds. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
But
And
we're adjusting that revenue sharing agreement to now address that, give that to this particular development.
And the revenue sharing agreement gives the authority to do that. You all may not remember, but this was much discussed when we last amended the revenue sharing agreement. And in fact, my recollection, I think, is that when we brought that amended revenue sharing agreement to the City Commission and we had this provision, because what has happened here is if we don't have this is really, I think, pretty accurate. I was going to say an oversimplification. If we don't have a project, sort of the default position is that the money either goes to the city or to the authority.
Right.
We surely hoped and expected that we would have projects and that we would be coming back and saying, okay, we got a project. Now here's where the TIF revenue is going to go. We actually, in our initial draft of that document that we brought back, had it in there that you would approve those. And you asked us to take that out. You didn't want us coming back every time. And so what we do now is we have a threshold, and if it's over a $3 million project, the authority has the ability to say, okay, we're going to direct that TIF revenue to this project. So that's what's going on here.
I recall that discussion.
Okay.
Thank you for refreshing
Yep.
my memory. Jeff, go ahead.
In the TIF application, when it says intended use of city funds, that 50%, this is not a typo. I just want to make sure that the intended use was for the debt service on the parking garage.
I'm sorry, where are you? You're
in the actual city TIF application on page
3. Okay.
My hands are numb from the temperature in this room, so I can't turn the pages, sorry. Page 3, yes, intended use of TIF or city funds, parking garage debt service. So the 50%?
The 50%
that you're giving back to them?
No, that's...
It's the other 50% of the 80?
It's the other 50% that is already dedicated to the parking garage.
It's going to be pledged to the county garage bonds to build that garage?
Already is.
Okay.
So what we're doing here is proposing that half would go to this project. I believe that the other half is already dedicated to those bonds. In any event, we're not asking to use it on this project.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to make sure because I saw that in another subdeveloper agreement. I just didn't want to make sure it wasn't a copy and paste error.
Well, we'll see.
I think that does agree with this map.
I think it does, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
You got a copy of that map before, correct?
I have had it before. I don't have it. I haven't looked at it lately, but yes.
Well, no, Kevin, you and I had, I guess, a discussion over the day by phone, okay, where there was some confusion, I think, among the parties. At least one of these parking garages,
Yes.
if not both of them,
No.
are now pledged to
You
the
want to wait
city.
till the mayor comes? I know he was concerned about that question.
Okay, all right.
I think I can answer the question.
Let's wait till Bruce comes. He's been concerned
I will
about
tell
it
you
all week.
that Gene called me sometime today and posed the question about the city owning a parking garage, and I said to him, I hadn't looked, but I was about 95% sure that I knew the answer. Well, I was wrong. I actually had a brainstorm a little bit earlier and ran back over to the office, and I am pretty sure now, but I'm pretty sure the other way, and that is that when the debt service is paid, the city gets the Block 6 garage. The confusion is over back in the happy days. Wasn't so happy for me, but when we were trying to get approval to build the garage in Block 12, and there were a lot of suggestions that we would never get the Block 6 garage built. And I just paused to say we did that. The city was entitled to the Block 6 garage. This is way out in the future, just like the ballpark. But the city was entitled to the Block 6 garage. And some were concerned, I guess some citizens and some city officials, that, well, it would never get built because we've put our focus up there in Block 12. So what we did in the documents was said the city is entitled to the Block 12 garage until a Block 6 garage, in fact, gets built, and then your right to own a garage goes back to the one you had a right to all along. And so I think I'm pretty confident that's what the document
And I think it was
says.
picked up again with the RAP documents.
Yeah,
that we did
and it's a lot more logical that one be.
Because I want to follow up this
Economically,
agreement.
I don't know if you want to own it, but I think you're going to get it in about 25 years.
In 2037, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because this agreement, Kevin, has, if I'm reading it, like 30 years of leases for parking with this apartment, which goes past that time that it converts to the city. And we spend a lot of time talking about parking, but if I'm reading it for the first 10 years, it's like $12.50 a month, and then it goes to where that next one is, I think up to like
Yes.
$20 or $25 next 30.
Yeah.
Okay. Because this will go past the date that the city has conveyed that parking garage, this agreement will.
It will, yes.
Do you need our permission to do that?
Well, I don't think so, but
So we get a garage that the rental stream is already determined free ahead of time by you all?
I think so.
Oh, okay.
And where does it,
And the
where did
lease-
rental stream go?
Well, where does it go now? I think it goes to retire the debt on the garage, if there's a net operating profit, which there isn't.
No, I don't know. Any net operating money from the garage comes to here, to the city.
The net operating profit comes to the
Yeah.
city?
The
Okay.
baseball stadium and the garage both do. I don't
Okay.
think we've ever had one.
No, we certainly have not.
Yeah, but I think
But
under
that's
agreements,
fine, that's, okay, so I stand corrected.
yeah, I think under agreements they come here.
I thought it went on the garage debt, which maybe benefits you as well, but.
I think I'm right. Well, I'll check. I'm pretty sure.
That's,
I know.
you're absolutely right about the baseball park and those two things, that the city would get the baseball park and the garage at some point in time. Happened at the same point in time when we first started. Before we sort of had this interlude where we moved to Block 12 and came back to Block 6.
Yeah.
It just seems to me it's awfully late tonight. These are very important documents, all three of these. Seems like there's still a lot of questions. Is there any interest we ought to table this?
Obviously there is.
I just don't think we or the city staff has had time to peruse these.
In a rudimentary 11th hour and 48th minute kind of approach? But if you're comfortable with that approach, that's fine. But
Kevin, I'm not going to. I've heard enough Okay, so I'm not going to try to force this thing with the comments I've heard here tonight. May I ask you to do one thing? May I ask you to at least let's talk about the hotel one, and let me know if you have any questions. That hotel's getting ready to get financed and come out of the ground, so it's fairly important.
Which one? 12?
It is the last. I think it's the last order.
Yeah, we do have some questions about that. Jeff, you want to start with the application?
Can I clarify for just a second? Can we take each of these individually if you are going to table them? If there is a motion to table this first item?
Okay. Motion to table municipal order 2013. Is it 194? Is that where we are?
Yes.
Motion by Hill, second by Denning. No discussion on the motion to table. Please call the roll.
Hill?
Yes.
Waltrip?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Denning?
Yes.
Wilkerson?
Yes. Next one is Municipal Order 2013-195, although we don't have it on the table. Have it on the floor. Maybe we could just withdraw that one for the moment and then
I'll withdraw
bring it
one.
back.
The sponsor, is
that
appropriate?
Withdraw that one and then now let's look at 2013 Municipal Order 2013-196.
Municipal order rescinding ordinance number BG 2010-29 and approving subdeveloper agreement and assignment and assumption of rights and obligations under master developer agreement, which includes a city TIF application related to Block 12 of the WKU Gateway to Downtown Bowling Green Development Area with Delasart Wellspring LLC.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Waltrip and second by Hill. Okay, if we had some questions there. Jeff, go ahead.
One thing I've noticed in all three of these subdeveloper agreements, Kevin, is that we're giving the subdeveloper until 60 days or more later to complete and provide information requested under the city's TIF application. Yet we're approving these things, 2-3 months in advance, and they're not even fully complete. I know it's what comes first, the chicken or the egg. I know you got to get the deal done. They're waiting on stuff, but I guess my question is when these are approved, and I may be speaking out of turn here, but when these are approved, is what keeps these from evolving and changing after they're approved by our board here over the next 60 to 90 days? I'll give you an example. We approved one 2 years ago, or maybe a year and a half ago, for the first hotel developer we thought we had hooked. I know it fell through, but that was approved probably prematurely, if you hindsight.
Absolutely, it was.
But what keeps that from continually happening with all these other projects? Maybe it's not that big a deal, but we're rescinding. Are we rescinding a municipal order for a former approval of a deal that didn't go through, kind of thing? So, I guess that's my first question: is if we're giving them another 60 days or something to complete and give us more and more information, what's the point in approving it now? Is that a good question, or
Plus,
does that make sense?
Without the application data, which is important by our own ordinance.
Yeah, it just, I don't know.
Well,
I know you got to get them done, but
I think we can. If you want to change the deadline, we can do that. I think we could provide all that pretty fast. Just for example, there's not data about cost of construction and so forth because I didn't have it. I have it now, and I'm not asking you to fill it in now. This is the model that we have had in the past. That the subdeveloper agreement provided for. We have, I think, generally had the application with it, but I don't know that we had to have the application with it. The reason that we're moving this along the way is that the hotel operator has been told that he would get certain things, and he's told his lender that he will get certain things, And you want to know that does he indeed have a lender? So it's a little bit of a catch-22. And the lender says, okay, we're going to loan you this money. In this case, it really means we're going to buy the bonds. And they do have a commitment to that. But they're going to buy the bonds based upon, for instance, the commitment that we give in here that he's going to have a piece of real estate to build it on. So it is a little bit of a chicken or an egg. In fact, I sent this to Eugene about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I knew it wasn't ready. I just kind of wanted you to see what we had coming. And I felt like last week that we really needed to try to get it on your agenda. So that's an answer that may not be satisfactory.
Yeah,
but
and
that's,
I know this one's under an industrial revenue bond issue, and you note that in here, but I guess it would be nice to have a little more detail on that, how much it's going to be for. You've got 60% private financing in here, 40% company equity, but there's really no dollar amounts on page 3 there that really lend any information to the deal, which leads me to my next question. We don't really know what's been earmarked or pledged to this developer.
Nothing.
Other than an IRB issue, and I guess there was a question about, this is hearsay, but there was a question about a pilot. There's no mention of a payment in lieu of agreement in this agreement, but I thought we had a kind of a handshake or a deal that we might get a pilot in the 11th year for that hotel. Otherwise, we're going 20, 25 years without any property taxes on it. So I guess we need more. I think we need more information or something nailed down on if that was agreed to or not with that payment in lieu of agreement, and whether or not that needs to be in this document here. That's a legal question, but I think we need something on it.
yeah, that was a new one on me. Jeff, sorry.
You don't know anything.
I mean, you may be exactly right, but I didn't make that handshake deal. I'm not even trying to resist it. I'm just saying I don't know.
Okay. I was asked.
So why don't we?
I was asked verbally if I thought we would be okay with that kind of deal, and I kind of said I think we would. We'd have to bring it to the board, but I haven't heard anything more about it. But I hate to. I don't know about you guys, but 20 years is a long time to not get any property taxes on a $10-12 million development.
Do we do it with anybody else?
Hey guys, I've heard enough. Why don't we table it and I'll get with staff.
Okay.
So that was the biggest issue on this one with me. Jeannie might have other things, but
well, if we're going to table it, you'll have time to address that later on.
Yeah, if we're going to talk later, we talk later.
So
good.
Just by way of modus operandi, it would be helpful for us if we had these in the future, that we have an opportunity to digest it, communicate with the board, communicate with you, have a work session, go over it. We're all supportive of TIF, but it's counterproductive, the methodology we've been using. Everybody all agree?
Yeah, I'd like to have it in advance.
All right, so I'll entertain a motion to table.
So moved.
By Hill, second by Williams. No discussion on a motion to table. Please call the roll.
Hill.
Yes.
Waltrip.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Denning.
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Brooks. Sorry to make you wait so long here to try to deal with it. And we have the late file that's added, Municipal Order 2013-197.
Municipal order approving a job development incentive program employee withholdings credit agreement with Horizon Steel Company.
So moved.
Motion by Hill, second by Denning.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. This is one of our continuing JDIP incentives. Members are Waltrip, myself, Miss Hill. We're giving up roughly $96,000 to Horizon to help create 30 new jobs, which I think we're all happy to do. We'll realize about $82,000 from this incentive, even though we've given up 96. By way of, this is interesting given the discussion earlier at the work session about incentives we give. Here's a perfect example. Giving up 96, getting 82 to help create 30 jobs. Very good economic development. I don't know if you can do more. So we on the committee recommend approval. Any other committee members want to add anything?
And who would that be?
Mr. Waltrip, Ms. Hill, and myself.
You summed it up quite nicely.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
And one last thing, everybody hates late files, but this is a late file because the public announcement was not until today, and we did not want to preempt that public announcement.
Understand. Any other discussion? Please call the roll.
Hill.
Yes.
Waltrip.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Denning.
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes, and that's the last item on our agenda. Thank you for staying late and tuning in with us. We'll be going into closed session.
No vote.
No vote coming out.
No vote.